So, actually, there was a pay-per-view here today, Slammiversary, but I gave Vinny a break. I didn't make him watch it.
Thank you.
I should have, Vinny. It was good.
I'm sure it was a good show.
I missed the opener, but Tessa Blanchard and Allie was better than, like, any WWE women's match we've seen on the main roster. I don't even know how long. I mean, it wasn't like a Ishii match, but, I mean, it was pretty good.
There's nothing like an Ishii match, let's be honest.
Eddie Edwards, Tommy Dreamer, House of Hardcore was a Tommy Dreamer hardcore match in 2018.
Sure.
Everybody liked it. Matt Sydal, Brian Cage was fascinating, as it was a small heel versus a giant babyface, but the small heel was working like a giant, and the giant was working like a small guy.
As soon as you said those names, I thought, that sounds impossible.
Yeah, it happened.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was pretty good. It wasn't like a great match, but it was pretty good. Sue Young, Madison Rayne was just sort of there. LAX versus the OGs in a 51-50 street fight. This is now the second street fight on the show. We didn't need two street fights on the same show. Mm-hmm. I kind of wasn't liking it early, but by the end, it's pretty awesome. They had a very, very good match. If you like hardcore matches, you probably love it. If you don't like hardcore matches like I don't, it was still really good. And the video packages and interviews that LAX and the OGs are doing is the best. It is the one thing that Impact does that is better than any other company in the United States.
Really?
Yep, it's that good.
Wow.
It's got Konnan acting.
That is a plus.
Yep. Pentagon and Sami Callihan in the third hardcore match on the show.
Yeah.
By this point, I was like, we really don't need another hardcore match. These fucking guys had such a good match. By far the best match on the show. It was completely nuts. It was a different kind of nuts from the Ishii Goto match we saw. It was very similar, except one, the guys really killed each other, and the other one, it looked like they killed each other.
I see.
These guys killed the fuck out of each other, and then Pentagon won, and Sami Callihan got his head shaved.
Oh.
Not doing it justice, but this was so good, the fans were chanting, "This is Impact." Think about that.
And he meant it as a compliment?
Yep. Chanted "Fight Forever," "Holy shit" chants. It was something else. And then the main event was Austin Aries versus Moose for the Impact Heavyweight title. And listen, I've been watching a lot of G1, okay? If the G1 was not going on right now, I still couldn't say that Austin Aries is the best wrestler in the world, because Okada exists, and Omega is very good. But this Austin Aries versus Moose match, I swear to God, if you watched this match, by the time it was over, you would say, this guy is seriously one of the best wrestlers in the whole world, Austin Aries. He had such a good match with Moose, who, granted, Moose is like, he's a good athlete.
I like Moose.
He's a good
athlete. I would never say Moose is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
No, he's not a great wrestler.
No.
But they had a fucking great match. And keep in mind, they had a wrestling match.
Yes.
After 3 hardcore matches, including they went directly after Pentagon and Sami Callihan, which the only match that I can think that I've seen, like, I guess this was on pay-per-view, so it doesn't count, but that crazy fucking Lucha Underground match last season with Killshot.
Oh, yeah.
This was like, it wasn't that crazy.
Good.
But this was like very reminiscent of that match. And the place was just going batshit crazy for it. And Austin Aries had to come out for the main event with the Moose.
And do holds.
I was like, honest to God, going to this match, I was all fixing to just give the normal speech I give all the time. Like, how can you have a world title wrestling match be the main event on the show with 3, like, hardcore matches on it? But, like, by the time it was over, it was like, that was a great main event. It was not better than the Callihan-Pentagon match, but, like, it was a really good main event. So that was a really good Impact show. So if you get a chance to check it out, go for it. Now, the bad news is in June, they claimed that the show was going to be $20, and then the day of the show came and it was like $40.
Well, that's more.
$44. Yeah.
So a lot more.
I don't know what the hell went wrong there, but nobody was getting it for $20. But anyway, and I even missed the 4-way opener, which was apparently really good. So, thumbs up.
Thumbs up for Impact this week.
Impact Slammiversary.
That's the word from Brian Alvarez.
That's right. All right, what'd you think of this Slammiversary show? I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, it was really good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really liked the Pentagon and Sami Callihan match was excellent, and Austin Aries and Moose was really good too. I mean, I guess I thought like three hardcore matches on one show was overkill, but the third one, which was the Pentagon and Callihan match, was so good that it made up for it. But I'm not a fan of like the bloodbath stuff. It's like when I was a kid I was, but now it seems so. I don't know. Because it's not done a lot. It clearly worked, and I thought that those guys just had an incredible match. But
it's funny you mentioned that because I'm not a big fan of hardcore matches, and when they brought out the LAX match, I was like, we don't need two of these on one show. And by the time it was over, it was like, okay, I can handle two on one show because that was a good match.
Yeah, it was.
Then they come out for the Pentagon match, and I'm like, three on one show? This will be overkill. But by the time that one was over, I was like, that match was awesome. So at the end of the day, it worked, but that's not exactly like an indication that you should do it all the time just because it worked here on this show.
Plus, it'll get old. I mean, but hopefully it's not like the new fingerprint is to do a whole bunch of hardcore matches. Because like when Tommy Dreamer was wrestling Eddie Edwards, I mean they did have a story behind it, and they obviously had the destination where it's like the idea that Tommy Dreamer, was passing the torch to him, passing the kendo stick to him as the torch. So when it was over, it's kind of like, okay, they had a reason for where they were going with all this and trying to make Eddie Edwards into this hardcore guy, just to give him some whatever it is. Not personality, because he has personality, but just something so that he can be something. So I kind of got that they needed that to do that. But when I watched like the match, it just felt very dated, and everyone's chanting ECW, and it's just kind of like, okay, it's retro, and I don't think that retro is the way to go, but it is different from what everyone else is doing, so that was fine. But I mean, overall, it was a really easy show to watch. I mean, I think Tessa Blanchard has tremendous presence, and she wrestles like a Japanese guy, which is a compliment. I mean, she's so aggressive. She doesn't wrestle like really any of the women, and I think that that's really good. And she's changed her look too, because when I remember, I mean, she's put on a lot of weight. I mean, it's like you can tell she's doing like heavy lifting, which is fine. If you want to be a powerhouse, she looks like a powerhouse. But she could be the focal point of that division, and should be, but she needs opponents, and that's the one thing. I thought Madison Rayne did a decent job in her match with Su Yung, but it wasn't that good of a match. But I didn't find like Allie was fine in the match with Tessa Blanchard, but I didn't feel watching the women that there was anyone that was on like to be like really good. You need a rival, and I just thought that like Tessa Blanchard really had some great ring presence and great aggressiveness, and but she needs a rival, and I didn't see a rival there. They need to find somebody to be her rival.
All right, I missed the opener, so take us through the four-way.
Oh, exactly what you'd expect. It was a bunch of just one spot after another, and let's see. It was Taichi. Everyone looked good. John Morrison, Johnny Impact. It was Johnny Impact and Phoenix. Phoenix was fantastic. He was the best guy in the show. Just absolutely fantastic. And Petey Williams and who is Ishimori, Phoenix, Petey Williams, Morrison. And Morrison ended up winning with Starship Pain on Phoenix. Phoenix did a rope walk drop kick. Ishimori did a top rope moonsault to the floor. Phoenix did some great rope work spot with Johnny Impact. Absolutely great. I don't even want to describe it. It's just great. Impact and Phoenix did running flip dives, and Ishimori the 450 to the floor. It was a fun opener. It didn't really, like, it felt to me like just guys doing moves, but they were really good moves, and the crowd liked it, and it was just a fun way to open the show. But I didn't think it was like a great match. But it's kind of like when it was over, I thought, like, it's probably gonna be the best match on the show. It wasn't, but it was, it was all action. I mean, action for action and moves, it was the best match on the show. For athleticism, it was the best match on the show. But it was just kind of like there for guys to demonstrate moves, and it didn't really, it didn't have any kind of like a build or any, I don't know. It didn't feel like a dramatic match at all to me.
Tessa Blanchard, Allie, second match on the show. It was a good match. Tessa worked her ass off. Did this spot where she just ran as fast as she could, going for an elbow and missed and smashed into the bottom rope, and those ropes are not soft. Got the heat. Allie made her comeback, hit a DVD on the floor. They go up top, and Allie took the scariest middle rope hurricane run you've ever seen. It looked like it landed on her head and neck, but she was fine. And Tessa missed a dive off the top. Allie hit a code breaker. Tessa rolled outside, traded some near falls, and Tessa finally hit a hammerlock DDT for the pin. This was better than, 90% of the women's matches on the main roster on pay-per-view? I thought it was very good.
No.
Who's doing better matches than this over the last couple of months? Charlotte's gone.
Charlotte and
I'm talking like the last couple of months.
Not better than Ronda Rousey matches.
Ronda Rousey, I'll give you that one.
It's better than Alexa Bliss and Carmella. Much better, sure, but not close to Charlotte and Asuka. Not close. Allie tried, but it just felt like, she wasn't in the league with Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard's got, I wish some of those, that some of the talent that was somewhere else, that they bring in some talent somewhere else. I don't know if it's women from Japan or what, but they need better wrestlers. They need better women wrestlers to go with Tessa Blanchard. But she has great star presence.
We had a Moose promo, vowed to become the champion. Said all of his hard work, broken bones, surgeries would pay off tonight. Feels good, looks good, not playing tonight. And it was a good promo. Good promo by Moose. Eddie Edwards, Tommy Dreamer, House of Hardcore match. This storyline with Eddie Edwards is where I thought the Johnny Gargano storyline was going, but I think it'd be too obvious if they're basically ripping off the Eddie Edwards storyline. Eddie was a babyface.
Wait, what? That they're
got his eye broken.
They're gonna say that Ciampa's sleeping with Candice.
Well, I don't know if they'd go that far, but like Eddie was obsessed with the guy to the point where he basically turned heel on Tommy Dreamer.
Oh yeah, completely.
And Gargano's obsessed with Ciampa, and he's acting very heelish. And we'll see where they go, but obviously this ended up with, I guess, Eddie going back babyface again. They had a basic hardcore match, staple gun spots. Eddie gigged after allegedly getting a staple gun to the head and fought up top. Dreamer gave him a low blow and a DVD through two chairs, flat part of the chairs. So then the big spot is Dreamer gets a table. He pours lighter fluid all over it. He goes to light it. Eddie gives him a DDT to cut him off. Fans are angry. We want fire, they chant.
They wanted fire. That was the thing with the match. It's like they have a storyline. They have a babyface. They have a heel. Eddie Edwards was kind of heelish. Tommy Dreamer was complete babyface. And the crowd, all the crowd cared about was violent spots. Like, it wasn't, they didn't care who won or lost. They just cared about seeing people go through tables. And they were pissed because they didn't get to see somebody go through a flaming table. And so the finish was kind of flat because of that.
Well, it's kind of funny because they did what Omega and Okada did, except for this audience, it didn't work. In the sense that they had a table, they had lighter fluid, the table's there in the middle of the ring, you're expecting the table to be used, they have some interference, Eddie's wife comes down, and eventually Dreamer, actually that was afterwards. First, Eddie hit him with a Shining Wizard, pinned him. Didn't even break the table was never used, and the fans were upset because they wanted a table and they wanted fire.
Yeah,
and they didn't get it.
Well, the difference is that in Omega and Okada, the whole thing was about who was going to win the match, and it was two strong personalities. Here, they didn't care about either personality. They just wanted to see guys. They just wanted to see guys get hurt and guys get set on fire and guys go through tables, as opposed to wanting to see a guy, as opposed to caring about the storyline or wanting to see one guy beat the other guy. So with that's why it happened the way it did. And again, this was a really good crowd. I mean, but
very good crowd.
But they were hot. They were hot for a lot of stuff for most of the show. So I mean, in that sense, it was a really good crowd. But in this match, you got that. I think that when you start doing that stuff, when you bring out the thumbtacks, because I'm really negative on thumbtacks right now. I think they're so overused and such a cliche. But when you bring out the thumbtacks, it takes people away, and you bring out too many tables. I think like you can bring out a table and it's fine, but when you start setting up a bunch of tables or in a bunch of chairs and all that, everyone, instead of wanting to see a winner and a loser, they just want to see the stunts and they just want to see the carnage. And at times, if you're going to do one match of that as something different from everything else on the show, that's fine. But I didn't, I just felt that I wasn't liking the fact that the crowd wanted to see somebody set on fire while they were, in a match where they had an actual storyline and they had people trying to play babyface and heel. It was just like, because to me it's like, well, they don't care about your story, and I mean that's what it was. But I just hate to see that when I'm watching a match, see them just go like, we don't care about your story, we just want to see some dude on fire.
And he had a breakdown after the match, crying, struggling to help Dreamer to his feet. Dreamer shoved him off, took his kendo stick. Alicia Edwards, that's Eddie's wife, stormed down to ringside, says this is all over. And Eddie and Tommy hugged. Dreamer gave him the stick, limped to the back holding his hip. Eddie sat in the ring with the stick in his mouth. Alicia walked to the back. So I think Eddie's a babyface now, but his wife walked out on him. So obviously we have to wait for TV to find out more. But that was the end of that storyline for the moment. And yes, nobody got burned to a crisp, so that was good. And Matt Sydal, Brian Cage for the X Division title. This match was a very small heel versus a very large babyface. And the very large babyface was working like he was a small guy, and the small guy is doing backdrops and power bombs on the big guy. It was bizarre. It wasn't bad at all. It was pretty good.
I thought the match was good, but Cage, to me, he's
gigantic.
He's gigantic, but it worked against him because I've been watching Cage for years, and I don't know if he's the biggest he's ever been, but when I saw him, that was my immediate reaction was, this guy's huge, and he seems noticeably slower, and his gimmick is that he's this muscular guy who can fly around. But when you get too big, you can still like do the stuff, but when you do it slower, it doesn't look as good. So I think that, especially because of the way he works, I mean, it's like he doesn't work in a way where size benefits him. I mean, it's like
no. It benefits him in the sense that it looks cool for a guy that big to be doing that stuff, but
yeah, but his stuff didn't look that cool. I mean, it's like when he's a little bit lighter, the stuff looks really cool because he's really quite agile for a guy like it. I don't know what his like real weight is, but let's say 260 is his normal weight, and let's say he's 280 now. But so at 260, he's and also the other thing is that when he's 260, he looks like a bodybuilder. He's got that real impressive looking physique. Now he just looks like this big, like this blown up guy, you know, like a powerhouse. But he wasn't doing power moves.
No.
He's trying to do agile moves.
There was a spot in this match where Brian Cage went for a running Hurricane Rana, but Sydal caught him and powerbombed him. Not the other way around. The 280-pound guy went for a running Hurricane Rana, and the 140-pound guy, or 160 or whatever,
he's probably 175.
Powerbombed him.
He's probably 175.
So I was laughing during this match. I mean, it was a fun match. I liked it. It was just bizarre to watch. And they kept going for their finishes. Cage kept trying for the drill claw, which is the square driver, the Steiner square driver. And finally, Sydal goes up top, and he's going to go for the shooting star. Cage is supposed to get his foot up, but Sydal hit his feet on the ropes, and it stopped his momentum. It looked like he almost killed himself. Just smashes on the ground, and Cage picked him up, drill claw, 1, 2, 3. So Brian Cage retains, or
no, he won.
Won
he won
the X Division title.
He won the title. He won the title.
Yep. So that's a match to see right there. Let me tell you. We had Austin Aries doing a promo, and basically said tonight Moose was going to find out what he's going to do for his third career choice, and everybody gasped. We had Su Yung, Madison Rayne knockouts title. So I don't know what's going on here. All the bridesmaids are out on the ramp with the coffin. The zombie bridesmaids continually interfere. Literally, they're grabbing Madison Rayne, and the referee is giving zombies a 5 count. I have no idea why it's not a DQ. They've
been watching too much New Japan.
Went back and forth, and Madison went for a reverse DDT. Sue put on the mandible claw. Madison went out. Su Yung is your winner. This was okay.
Do you think the mandible claw is legal in MMA?
It's a good question. I don't know.
I need to get a hold of
It feels
John
like if you
McCarthy.
put your fingers in somebody's mouth, I don't feel like that would be okay.
Okay, I'm just curious because I don't think there's like a special rule against it, and it seemed like it was a pretty effective move. I mean, she put it on, and that was it.
Well, I mean, in MMA, if someone puts their fingers in my mouth, I'm going to bite them.
That's a DQ.
Well, that's the problem. So if you put, okay, let's say that I put you in a mandible claw.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not working. I could then scream and grab my fingers, and you're DQ'd. So I feel that they probably shouldn't allow people to put their fingers in the other person's mouth for problems like that.
Oh, you know what? I think that they actually did make a rule that you can't.
Well, it's fish hooking.
No, fish hooking is pulling the mouth, but
Well, see, your fingers are in the mouth. You're fish hooking the tongue and not the cheeks. I think that's still fish hooking.
yeah, but I think it should be illegal now that I think about it. So yeah, thank God. Yes, that was like Sam Shepard's move. From in the 60s.
Yep. LAX versus OG is in a 51-50 street fight. The video packages and the interviews and the stuff with Konnan leading into this match was so great.
Yes, it's tremendous.
It's like, if I had to pick out one thing that Impact does better than any other company in the U.S., it's that stuff that Konnan's doing. It's so good.
It's so that character. They do that character, the whatever it is, the street gangbangers thing. They do that character so well. I mean, it's like Konnan's just a great voice for it, and I mean, they feel authentic. It's like, you know how some when you watch guys do these type of characters and you know that it's all contrived. This, like, it felt like on both sides. It felt very legit. And they worked, they work good. Konnan's he's really a great talker, and he's at doing that gimmick. You know what I mean? It's like he does that gimmick like he's like just everything about the way he does that is really strong. So, yeah, and they worked hard. They had a really good match.
Yeah, it started out just a hardcore match, hitting each other with stuff. It wasn't exciting early, but then about halfway through, it turned into a really good match. They had a doomsday neckbreaker spot on a Homicide. Hernandez pulled the referee out of the ring. He's running wild, doing this crazy flip dive through the ropes. Homicide does this dive and wipes out Santana and nearly kills himself on the barricade.
Is that the one where he put him through the table?
Yep.
Yeah, that tope where he put him through the table was pretty impressive looking.
So Hernandez does a border toss through a table in the ring. Fans are chanting Impact Wrestling, going crazy. Homicide spits on Konnan. Konnan starts yelling at him, but he throws thumbtacks to Santana. Santana pours him out, gives Homicide a slam onto them. Huge frog splash on the Homicide and the tacks, and pins him 1, 2, 3. And then afterwards, LAX attacked Konnan, beat the hell out of him. He's laying there in the thumbtacks, and they grabbed the spray paint and tagged the titles. And yeah, turned into a very good hardcore match. If that's your thing, it's a hell of a match. Next up, we had Pentagon, Sami Callihan. Which, as I look at my notes now, I can't believe that this match followed that last match. 2 hardcore matches in a row.
Yeah.
This match was phenomenal by the end.
Yeah, it was. This reminded me of watching a match, a mask versus hair match in, I would say, late 80s era, where you had where you knew a match like this would be filled with blood. I mean, the spikes are different, and the weapons, because those matches they would just do brawls, and they wouldn't, like I'm talking about in Mexico, but aside from that, you would have all the near falls, you would have a lot of heat. The winner or loser meant something because it was the stip was considered a big deal, and it's weird because now when I watch the Juice, and I'm just not I don't know, it's new, and new is good, but I just feel watching Juice that it's from another era. I mean, I guess because nobody else does it, but it doesn't appeal to me either. And I mean, when I was a kid, I guess it was cool, but I guess maybe I learned too much, and it's hard to like really advocate, cutting someone's forehead. I mean, granted, I'd rather have that than hard way, but I guess I've seen so much great wrestling with no blood that I don't feel the need for blood anymore, and everyone knows that they do the blood, like it's not a secret, so it's almost like, you kind of like, it is barbaric, it really is if you think about it. So I don't know, but I mean, I thought the match was just great though. I mean, like, especially like Pentagon's just so, I mean, Sami's good too, but Pentagon is just like super charismatic. I mean, the one thing about him is like, I would watch him in Lucha Underground, and he would do Spanish interviews, and they would get over better than English interviews, and I don't even know Spanish. I mean, I know some Spanish, but if I knew no Spanish, it would still get over better than 90% of the English interviews, because it's all about delivery and just his voice and his presence, and he's got it. He should be, both those guys, him and Phoenix. I mean, they are doing really good, but they're really something. Phoenix was just, he was the guy on the show. I mean, just what the guy can just do anything.
So as noted, they used spikes. We had Pentagon getting his mask tore up. They both get spikes. They basically did the spot that we see in pretty much every G1 match now, where the guys, they fight to their feet and they start pounding back and forth. This time they're pounding each other with spikes to the head.
Yeah, that was ridiculous, actually, when they were doing that. I mean, it's kind of graphic and everything like that, but, it's like, if you think about that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like instead of punching someone in the head, you're just driving spikes in each other's heads.
That's not even the craziest one. The craziest one is when Pentagon gets a spike and he puts it up against Sami Callihan's head. He grabs a baseball bat, and he's going to pound the spike into his head with this bat. Right. Irony of ironies, he missed the first time, and baseball bat right to Sami Callihan's head. Didn't hit him very hard, but still. Second time he got it, there's this big ping. It's absolutely disgusting. So they are going back and forth. Pentagon's going for the arm breaker. It gets thwarted. The Crists hit the ring. It's Sami Callihan's crew, How versus everything, or everybody. Pentagon gets powder in his eyes. He's blinded. He breaks the referee's arm. Everybody chants, you fucked up. Hits the Pentagon driver, no referee. Callihan then hits a pile driver on a chair, still no referee. Second ref hits the ring. Pentagon kicks out at the last second. Fans are chanting, this is Impact, fight forever. Callihan sets up 4 chairs. Pentagon pokes his eyes. Package piledriver through the chairs. Callihan kicks out. Fans are chanting, holy shit. Pentagon hits a super kick, another one. Callihan spits in his face, so Pentagon hits a third one. Breaks his arm. Package piledriver, 1, 2, 3. My only criticism of this match, and I really like this match, he broke the dude's arm, and then Callihan never sold it afterwards. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
What was that all about? I was baffled.
Yeah, and I'm sure Callihan will be fine on Monday or on the tapings.
Which was funny because the Crists hit the ring and they had their arms broken. They got casts on.
Yeah, well, maybe he won't be. Maybe I'll be cast on. Yeah, but I mean, I've seen that with Marty Scurll a million times. Where he breaks everyone's fingers and then they're fine the next day.
There you go. Anyway, afterwards, the Crists tried to save Sami from getting his head shaved. So the funniest part of the whole show, they sent out 6 referees to hold down 2 guys with broken arms. So the baby faces, Pentagon's up there, and Phoenix comes out. They make sure that Callihan can't leave. They shave his head, and that was that. This was, if you're a fan of hardcore matches, this was the match for you.
And if you're a fan of 1980s Lucha Libre, except that they used spikes, which they wouldn't do, but bloodbath, stiff matches. That's what it was kind of built around.
And finally, Austin Aries versus Moose for the Impact Heavyweight title. Going into this match, I thought we've had 3 hardcore matches on this show. The last one was a hardcore bloodbath with incredible heat. Now you're going to main event with Austin Aries versus Moose in a non-stip singles wrestling match. Whose idea was this? These guys go in there. Austin Aries is so great. Moose is a great athlete, not a great wrestler. He's a decent wrestler, but he's not like a great worker.
He's improved a lot.
He has improved a lot, but he's no Ishii, he's no Okada, he's no Omega.
No. But you know what though? If he would have made the move to go there by now, if he would have gone to New Japan 2 years ago, by now he would be phenomenal.
Probably would be, yeah.
He would be. I mean, he'd be much better than he is now. Because look at like Juice, just as an example, or any of those guys that were at like his level when 2 years ago, Jay or all of them, right? These guys hold their own in great matches now. So he would be able to do that too. I mean, he did here, but I mean, he would be even better if he had gone there.
So Aries just had the performance. I can't say the performance of a lifetime, but as far as like carrying a guy, this was so good. So they had a match, and Moose made a big comeback. He's doing all these huge running drop kicks. Aries hits him with a Frankensteiner. They end up in the crowd. They end up on the ramp. There was a big spot where Moose went for a dive over the top rope, smashed on the ramp. Then he got whipped into the guardrail.
Yeah, he just totally missed the dive.
Yeah, just smashes on the ramp. Aries used a low blow behind the ref's back, tried the brainbuster, but Moose gave him a brainbuster, hit a spear. Aries got the bottom rope, close near fall there. Fought outside, Moose tossed him into the first row over the barricade. That's where he crashed on the ramp. And finally, Aries gives him a brainbuster on the floor. Moose barely makes it back in. His second is out there, Curtis Anderson. Aries tries to grab... Granderson. Aries tries to grab the belt, but Granderson grabs it. Quick distraction, and then Aries hits a penalty kick, brainbuster on Moose, clean pin in the middle of the ring. I just thought, dude, this guy's great. He's so good.
Yeah, they had a great main event. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, Austin Aries did a great performance. Seen a lot of great performances, but he definitely had a great performance, no doubt. One of the things...
It's just one thing to me where, like, when you're in the ring with a really great worker and you go out there and you have a great match, it's like, it takes 2 to tango. And I don't want to take anything away from the Moose, but, like, this was so much better than you would have expected Moose to have as far as, like, a main event championship match.
I think
it was incredible.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the match. Yeah, but Austin Aries has been great for 10 years.
He has been great for 10 years.
I mean, and longer than 10 years, probably 12, 13 years, maybe longer than that even. I mean, he is Austin Aries is a really great professional wrestler. He's a great talker. He's a great everything. Every aspect of it. He is just, I mean, he's confident. It's you know, I mean, you can put him in these positions. He's going to, in a big match situation, he's going to deliver, and he did.
Back in the show, Brian Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com, is noted. If you want to give us a call here today, we're using the Sports Byline, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529 is the phone number here today. Had a texter here saying, is it me or was Dave a little too hard on Impact? Was he? I thought he gave it a pretty good review. I will admit I think that I liked the show more than he did. But I didn't think he was too hard on it. I didn't see the opener, but very quickly, Tessa Blanchard, Allie. I thought, since Asuka's been facing Carmella and Charlotte has been out of action, this was the best women's match on a U.S. pay-per-view in months now. It was very, very good. Tessa Blanchard is great. Allie tries very, very hard. She admitted on this show she's not much of an athlete, but boy does she try. Eddie Edwards, Tommy Dreamer had an ECW-style match. Fans loved it. It's not my favorite kind of match, but it was a good match. If that's your thing. Brian Cage, Matt Sydal. Brian Cage won the title in a match you have to see because it's so preposterous to have a 280-pound guy who's playing babyface facing a guy who's maybe 165 pounds who's playing heel, and the big guy is doing stuff like running Hurricane Ranas, but the little guy's catching him in midair and powerbombing him. I swear to God this happened in this match. So that was fun. Su Yung, Madison Rayne was there. It wasn't very good. LAX versus the OGs in a 51-50 street fight. Second hardcore match on the show. I didn't think you needed 2-on-1 show, but by the end of this match, this was a great match. Thought it was a great match. The LAX won. All sorts of craziness, ladders, chairs, tables, thumbtacks, the whole 9 yards. If that's your kind of match, you'll love it. Then, that's followed by your third hardcore match of the night, Pentagon Jr. and Sami Callihan, mask versus hair. This match was outstanding. This match was probably, as far as like national, I guess it wasn't on national television, but if you remember that kill shot match in Lucha Underground that was just absolutely insane, this was like maybe in second place to that match. They used spikes, chairs, bleeding. There was a spot where Pentagon put a spike on Sami's head and hit it with a baseball bat. Just all sorts of nuttiness, but place is just going haywire for this match. And Pentagon Jr. won. Sami Callihan got shaved. This was an excellent, excellent deathmatch style violent brawl. And then in the main event, having to follow all of that, Austin Aries versus Moose in a professional wrestling match. I was like, there's no way this is following two hardcore matches, including one of the better hardcore matches I've ever seen. There's just no way this can follow it. Austin Aries is one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. He got such a great championship match out of Moose. Moose is a great athlete. He's not a great worker. But he's a great athlete that can be carried by a great worker. So they went in there, went 15 minutes, had the place going crazy. Austin Aries finally hits the big brainbuster on the floor, get back in the ring, penalty kick, brainbuster in the middle. And Moose is a big dude. And Austin Aries is not a big dude. But he got him up for multiple brainbusters. Pinned him, retained the title. This was like the best Impact pay-per-view I've seen. God, I can't even tell you the last one that was this good. It's a new Impact. And they're focusing on wrestling. They're focusing on their video packages. They're focusing on storylines. It's still missing something because we don't get a lot of people that call into this show or text into the show or email about it. It's still under the radar. Like, the people that are watching it understand that it's so much better now, but I think the problem is there's so much wrestling that is available in JPW World, WWE Network, Fight, beIN Sports, Ring of Honor, ROH's streaming service. I mean, to really stand out, you've got to have like something that's better than everybody else has. And the only thing that I can think of that Impact has that's better than anybody else is the stuff with Konnan, LAX, and the OGs. Like, that's stuff that nobody does as well as Impact. But that's the only thing. Everything else is just really good. And I think that they need something that's going to really make them stick out, whether it's some star that they hire or some angle that really clicks, something. I don't know what that is. Getting off Pop, they get back on the former Spike TV, that'd be something, but I know you didn't see it, Mike, but that was a good show.
No, and that's, I haven't seen that much Impact since they have rebranded and reawoken as the Owl with Anthem buying it. But as talked about, as Josh Matthews about when he was on last week, it feels different. It does truly feel different, and who cares what Dave said coming out of this show? I think the overwhelming thing coming out of this show is Impact had a good show, and it felt like they had their own identity, and it did truly feel different. And it does feel like there's positive momentum, and they're going the right way. It's just the problem at this point is the one thing that they can do better, it doesn't, whatever that is, it's offset by how much damage has been done to that company and that brand over time, where this may be too little too late. We'll have to see how, much Anthem is behind them in this going forward. But like you mentioned, the competition that they're up against, the amount of streaming services, the amount of, and it doesn't even, in the wrestling one matters because obviously they're selling Anthem, but or the I forget what they're calling their Impact streaming service, but at a time now where there's more of these things than ever, we're talking about the Zone is now coming in, and if you're a multiple sport fan, if you like both MMA and wrestling and boxing, now that's another one added into the mix on top of ESPN Plus becoming a thing for people, and it just gets to be overwhelming where, yeah, they do need a lot to stand out, but they, I don't know what they have to do, but it's going to be more than something that's going to take place on screen. And I don't know what it is, but they need some sort of crossover appeal. And as great as D'Angelo Williams is, I don't know if it's drawing other bodies, other athletes, something in there, but they're going to need something over the top to draw even the slightest bit of attention to themselves.
All right, let's go to the sports byline. Tanner in Maryland is on the line. Tanner, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Bryan and Mike? Hope you guys are doing well. Got a comment and a question here for you. First off, I've probably run into Mike at Food Line like I have Jay Briscoe, so I'll have to be on the lookout for
Food Line? Time. Is that a store?
Yes, it is. It's a grocery store.
I'm more of a Harris Teeter guy, but...
how about that?
All right. So my comment I had about Impact, because you guys were just talking about it, I really, really enjoyed the Dreamer match. Mostly just because of the storyline. I don't follow Impact too much, but I really enjoyed that story, how it was greatly well done. And I was kind of angry watching it because it seemed like the crowd was just so unhappy that somebody didn't go through a table that was on fire. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. But my question that I had was related to the belts. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the announcement tonight is going to be of a women's tag match, or women's tag belts, rather. This is not going to just be a Raw women's tag belt, right? This is going to be defended cross-brand.
Dude, we don't know.
Raw.
Well, we don't know anything. We don't know if it's...
I would be...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I'd be surprised if they just do a Raw tag belt and not do a SmackDown, too, if they're not planning to do that.
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, listen, if they're doing women's tag team titles, they're either doing belts for Raw and SmackDown, or they're doing traveling belts. I mean, they're not going to do Raw women's tag team titles, but the SmackDown women get nothing. I mean, it's going to be one or the other. We don't know what it's going to be. I mean, it could only be the announcement of the pay-per-view. It could be both. It could be something totally different. I have no idea what it's going to be.
And in honest to God, when it comes to those tag, they could announce something and have it go a completely different direction by the time they roll it out. I mean, so it's even like when they announce something, you still aren't sure exactly the way it's going to go.
And listen, Omega and Okada got away with a spot where they set up a table, but no one ended up going through it, okay? Now, the difference is they set up that table like 15 minutes into a 40-minute match or whatever. And so by the time the finish came, you didn't even remember there was a table there. I remember because I watched it back. But if you're doing a hardcore match and you're killing each other with gimmicks and you set up a table in the ring and you put lighter fluid on it and you get out a lighter and then you go to the finish like 1 minute later, yeah, the fans are going to be really upset that you didn't light that thing on fire and put somebody through it. I mean, they just can't avoid it. No. So that was a misstep in that match, but I was glad, trust me, I'm glad nobody got set on fire. But that's a tough spot to do, because once you set up that thing and put the lighter fluid on it, people are expecting you're going to do something crazy. By the way, Austin Aries here on Twitter. He says, nobody's at my level, period. If you disagree, you're invited to come prove me wrong. If your boss will let you, of course. Now listen, I'm a huge fan of Austin Aries. He was outstanding last night. He was one of the best wrestlers in the world. But let's not get crazy here. He's not the best wrestler on the earth.
Well, he thinks that.
I'm sure he does. That's why he's so good.
Very high opinion of himself. And that's the thing about him, too. I mean, a lot of those people who tend to be obstreperous pricks, you know, they do believe in themselves very good. And, hey, I saw him have a great match with Kenny King at the ROH show. So, I mean, when putting good performances or putting high-profile performances, he's got it.
I'd also like to mention, did you watch Impact last night?
Nope.
The debut of Scarlett Bordeaux.
Ah, really? No.
This was so incredible for so many reasons, okay? She comes out, she's dressed in lingerie, and I'm not sure what she put underneath her bra, but, I mean, it looks like she's got a see-through top on, except there's no nipple. So, I mean, she is out there in the most revealing outfit any woman has been wearing in professional wrestling in years. And she comes out here and she starts this promo. And, I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it's a total spoof of the Stephanie McMahon promo about, I'm here, I want to be a role model, the business has changed, women can now do anything in wrestling. Just, it comes off as a total spoof. And then she transitions into, basically, her character is a female wrestler from WWE in like the late 90s. She's there. She's Sable. She's there to show as much skin as possible. She does not want to be hot shamed. She's burying the other girl there for being a 5 and she's a 10. She's showing every ounce of skin that she can. It's amazing because if you're a wrestling fan and you see all these women in WWE and you miss the days where they'd be out there in their bikinis and doing the swimsuit stuff, and the stuff that we don't see anymore. If you're a fan who misses that, Scarlett Bordeaux is the wrestler for you. Tune in every week. Hold on. Tune in every week to see how little she's going to have on. However,
commercial for her?
There's also the aspect of, if you're one of those fans who's totally into the women's evolution or revolution or whatever, and you want to see these women treated like athletes, she's a heat magnet. So I was just blown away by this segment. You got to watch it, Mike. I'll just say this. You got to watch it.
Is it, I guess, the character she was doing when she was with Salisa Sparks and all that, whatever her name was, and they were doing the thing in ROH? Is this just her on 10 of that, I guess, by herself?
We'll find out. There's many, many weeks to come, I'm sure.
I don't know.
It was just, It's so different. It's so complete. That's the key. It's completely different from anything you'd see in WWE. They don't allow any of the women to do this anymore.
And it may work if there's only one person doing it, you know, and it stands out and it's done well, then it can many times be palatable if the overall swing is going in the other direction. And obviously when it comes to WWE, look, regardless of however this gets over to whatever degree it is, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because the direction that WWE is moving in and the people that they have there, I mean, you know, that's, you can stay stuck in the past, but that's just, there's a small percentage of people, I think, that are like that. And I don't know. I'm glad the direction we're going in is the way we're going in, because now we have Mako Satomura showing up in the Mae Young Classic, and Toni Storm, and look what we've been talking about with these other women coming over from MMA and everything else. Yeah, it's I prefer the other way better.
Yeah, but that's not my point. The point is, if you're totally going in that direction, then one person going completely in the opposite direction, it works.
Sure. Well, if it's done right and it's done well consistently, then yes. If it's just a flash, then no. All
right, back in a
moment.
moment.
A lot of Connors. There's only one Connor.
Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live.
All right, so let's see. Last thing on my list to talk about is, and you'll have to tell me why we're talking about this, which is the TNA and Spike, the history of that whole thing and how it went down.
Yeah, it's just something that we got up on Twitter. So the basic situation is this.
People were tweeting you about this thing that happened years ago.
Yeah, over and over and over again, and thinking I don't know what I'm talking about. And I know, unfortunately, it's one of those stories that I know way too well. So what happened, okay, the Impact's ratings were falling the last year, and they were certainly, there were things that with Impact that made them unhappy. And, they certainly hated Vince Russo.
You're talking about Spike TV.
Spike TV, yeah. So, there was certainly talk of dropping Impact before the deal happened with Russo. Okay, it wasn't like it's 100% because of that, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So what happened was, Vince Russo was secretly working. They were all denying it. I remember watching, going like, I see too many Russo fingerprints on this, and it was always denied to me. And I wasn't the only one. There were other reporters who, know what a Russo show looks like, and said that. And
so just for the people who may be listening, for the first time, being that this is a free show, Spike didn't want Russo.
No. The reason that the Russo thing was a secret was because Spike was adamant that they didn't want Vince Russo anywhere near the product. Whatever it was, I don't know what the reason is, but Spike hated Vince Russo. Okay, as far and again, I can see why, because Dixie may have been charmed by him, but anyone who had any knowledge of wrestling, and saw WCW or saw the garbage that he did in Impact. You know what I mean? It's just like whatever. It's there's a track record there, and it's pretty bad. So they didn't want it. So Dixie, in her infinite whatever, hired Russo back, but the whole thing is you got to keep it a secret, because if Spike finds out, they're going to be really upset because they said no. So Dixie felt they needed Russo. So I remember watching stuff. I was talking to people who knew that he was there, and they wouldn't tell me, but but the wrestlers didn't know. But there are people who, there were, 5 or 6 people probably were new. Maybe that many. So he was doing a thing, and he sent, he would send emails to Mike Tenay and Taz, the announcers, tell them, how to call things and what to do and all that. So there was this day, and they're in the office ready to do voiceovers, and Taz has his email from Vince Russo, and Mike Tenay is there, and he doesn't have his email from Vince Russo. And he's going like, that's weird. Why don't I have my email from Vince Russo? So he looks at Taz's, and he looks at like where it's sent to, and there's no Mike Tenay. It says Mike Johnson. So that's when they go, oh my God. Vince Russo accidentally emailed Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, writer for Pro Wrestling Insider. So Mike Johnson knows 100% that Vince Russo's there. That's the smoking gun. So in their infinite wisdom, so they go to John Gaborik, who was the head of the company at the time. I don't know where Dixie was, but this is John Gaborik's thing. We got a problem here. So in their infinite wisdom, nobody calls Mike Johnson. And the big question that we all have is, and the only person who can answer this question is Mike Johnson. I've never asked him this. And maybe I should have, but in the end, it didn't matter. But I was always curious that what if John Gaborik called Mike Johnson and goes, Mike, we know you know, but we're fucked. You know what I mean? Because if Spike finds out, and you write this and Spike finds out, we're fucked. We're fucked bad. So please don't report it. Okay? They never made that call. If it was me and I'm in John Gaborik's shoes, that's the first thing I do. You may not, he may say no. Hey, I got a story and you lied and you're fucked and fuck you. I mean, he may just go, well, okay, I don't want you to lose TV. I don't want to hurt the business. And he may have said, okay, they did not make that. But I would certainly have made the call. I mean, wouldn't that be the first person you would call? Is Mike Johnson?
Absolutely.
They didn't call. They called Vince Russo, and they couldn't get a hold of him. I guess, why would you call Vince Russo? So Vince Russo, who they can't get a hold of, then Vince Russo is, of course, in the middle of this, and he's going in there saying Mike Johnson's a liar, you were worked, he's a fraud, he's doing all this. He just goes through this whole thing. And Mike Johnson's all look, he's got the evidence, like me with the Destination America thing, and also with the Spike thing, both those things, where everyone's calling me a fraud, and it's like, hey, I know the story. Go call me a fraud, because in the end, and speaking of which, do you know how many people owe me apologies for that? For both of those, for the Spike and the Destination America. And I told them, and it's like, fuck those people. No, realistically, fuck them. Because again, so anyway, so I know, so this goes down. So Russo's lying about it left and right, and you're worked, and Mike Johnson's a fraud, and blah blah blah. And Mike's just completely calm because, of course, in that situation, that's what you do. You go like, I got the evidence.
Yeah.
You're so that only makes it worse because they're going back and forth, and the truth's going to come out, and he's making it worse. And frickin' Gaborik, who doesn't get a hold of Russo, finally gets hold of Russo and goes, Russo, you got to tell the truth, because he already knows the truth. So then Russo has to do this one. Well, they told me to lie, and it's all their fault, and all this. So that's what happened. But of course, the end result is we all know, okay, because Mike Johnson reported it, and he had the evidence, and Spike knew, and they got canceled. It was not 100% that why they got canceled, but that was they got canceled literally days after. It came out like 2 weeks after. I knew that they were canceled. I would say a couple of days. I had gotten a tip, but it was essentially one person told me, but it's like this is like your third hand stuff, right? I mean, it was actually second hand. But it's like I knew it was true, but I can't go with it on such a big story. Then I got it confirmed, but the person who told me to confirmed it, which was like a day later. And she said, this is off the record. So I'm sitting there. Bryan knew, I knew. I can't go with this story, but I know it's true. So I'm sitting there going like, yeah. So I won't break the story. Someone's getting it within a day. Mm-hmm. This is pro wrestling, right? I sat there for like a freaking week, and I'm hinting to people, but I can't do it. So finally, of all people, again, it's Ryan Satin. But I was tell you, here's the funny part of the story is, so this is about a week later, and I'm just waiting for somebody break this story. It's a huge story. They're getting canceled by Spike, and we can talk about it with Bryan, but we can't talk about it. So, and I'm not going to be able to, you know what I mean? So, but someone's got it, right? So finally, I get a phone call from Court Bauer, and he goes, have you heard anything about Spike canceling TNA? And I don't even remember what I told him, but I probably told him yes, because yeah, but I mean, he was not a reporter at the time, but he was, Court's a guy who I know. I said yes. So evidently, Ryan Satin, and I actually, even though I haven't spoken to Ryan Satin in a long time, even though we go to PWG and we see each other every show, and we maybe sometimes say hi and often don't even say that. But at the time, I actually had met Ryan Satin at a WWE function, and we talked about like how we both found out about it. And he had his sources at Spike, like I did. And he knew 100% that it was true. But for whatever reason, he talked to Court. And Court may very well have told him, yes, it's true, or maybe, I don't know what Court told him, but whatever. So these guys, he breaks the story, and a minute later, Court is telling me he's breaking the story. It's like, that's fine, because then I can write my real story, because I know everything that had happened, everything the way they actually went down, and he only knows that they're canceled. So fine, go break the story. That's cool by me. So So immediately, which was funny, and I don't remember if this was Shearer or Mike Johnson, and I don't talk to those guys or email them often. There are occasions where I do, okay? But they emailed, and so Ryan Satin breaks the story. And then I immediately break the story too and just go like, this is true, and this is what happened, and me and Bryan talk about it. And they go, Dave, Court Bauer made this story up, and he told Ryan Satin, and he went with it, and there's no truth to it. And I emailed them both back, or whichever one. I can't say both. I don't remember. I think it was Shearer. I don't think it was Mike, but it was one of the two. It was Pro PW Insider. And I go, no. I promise you the story's true. They didn't believe me, of course. And I go, I promise you it's true. I'm just telling you, it's true. They didn't believe me, and they spent months with the idea that, that it's just a negotiation thing, and they're still going back and forth. They were never going back and forth. It was already done. It was a done deal. They didn't announce it for months because Spike didn't want people to know for 6 months, that this is a lame duck show. You don't want to say that publicly. That's how you work things. But even so, I mean, it was the same people who were making speeches or going like, well, we're in discussion. It's not a done deal. Had already told me that it's done. So that was the story. That was the story as far as how that one went down. But it was, that's what it was.
Someone just tweeted you today about this, and is that why it came back up?
I'm trying to remember, but it was somebody who didn't believe that version of the story, and then Velvet Sky came and said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I was there," and it was because they hated Dixie. And it's like, did they hate Dixie? Probably, probably by the end they did, but that's what happened. She, it was weird because at first it's like she's sort of attacking me, and I'm going like, well, what you know. Were you in that? Do you know the blow by blow what happened that day? Probably not. I don't know. I know too many people do, but whatever. It's fine. Go with your thing. And the reality is that her version of the story isn't untrue. They were tired of Dixie. And the ratings were falling. It wasn't just this one thing. It was that was just the last straw. And if it didn't happen, they may have been canceled. They may not have been canceled if it didn't happen. We don't know. But look, they're mad at Dixie because she lied to them, saying, so essentially it is Dixie's fault. I never said it was Russo's fault. And people are attacking me, going like, oh, that sounds like it's Dixie's fault. And it's like, well, hell, of course it was Dixie's fault. It wasn't Russo's fault. They just hated Russo because they understood that Russo was really bad at his job, and they didn't want him involved on the show that they were doing for whatever reason. But then, like, I think later I could kind of see that her whole thing was like, I'm agreeing with her, and she's going, oh, you're still picking on Russo. And it's like, I could just see that it's like, for whatever reason, she just wants to defend Russo. And there's no defense. This story doesn't defend Russo. You know what I mean? It's like, so I was like, okay, I see through this. It's like, forget this.
Sometimes your Twitter feed is a sort of a who's who about insecurity in wrestling sometimes.
Well, so the one thing that I have learned, and everyone should learn, there's, that we got the buzzwords, right? It's like, if you call someone who's using the word mark, in almost 95% of the cases, they're idiots. Okay. Smart, probably about 98%.
Or that they just hear this terminology and they don't really know what any of it means.
Yeah. Dirt sheet, what do you say, 85, 90%? Maybe more. So, I look at those, when I see those words and I kind of make fun of people, go, okay, these are the idiot words. So the biggest idiot, the new idiot word is I was there. Because everyone who does I was there, they're fucking liars in every case, because you weren't there and I was there. It's like, in most cases, I know more than you do in most cases about what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to business. And even if I don't, when you're pulling that card, in almost every case, you're lying. It's like, every time you see a guy do the I was there thing, how many times have they been honest? Do you ever see it?
I don't see it that often. You obviously see it way more than I do, but the way I see it is reading your Twitter feed.
Yeah. So that's the situation. That's what brought up the thing. So I just told people, I go like, I'm going to tell the story of that one. Do we have time? Can I tell the Destination America story too? Because actually I like that story
I think
too.
we have a couple minutes.
Okay, so this is Destination America. This is a year later, Destination America. So I got the memo, right? You know that. I got the memo of Destination America informing their employees we're canceling Impact. Okay, and so the situation there. As soon as I knew they had buyer's remorse. Oh God, right away. You know, I mean, there were one thing after another. They were canceling programming and things like that. Whatever they had paid, they got buyer's remorse. They thought, I think they thought that this show was doing 1 million viewers on Spike. We were going to get this show to 1 million viewers, and they were doing 300,000 viewers. So it's like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? We're paying money because they actually pay. Unlike with Pop, which is paying, basically nothing for the show. Destination America was paying. They weren't paying close to what Spike was paying, but they were paying real money, and they're not getting the numbers that they expected. So. And the ad, so anyway, they decide they're going to cancel the show. So the first thing I do, this was on a Tuesday. So I was like, I call Dixie up, or not call, I take that back. I email Dixie. And I go, I don't know if you know this, but I'm just telling you that you're getting canceled. And, whatever, the thing with Dixie up to that point. So I have to explain this part of it. Before that, I would say that when it comes to over the years, if I would email Dixie, I would say 90 to 95% of the time I would hear back immediately. And one time, I want to say this too. Okay, there was a charity situation, and I emailed UFC, WWE, and Dixie. One right after the other, get involved. And just Dixie, within 5 minutes, immediately. The other ones, not at all, okay? Dixie immediately, so whatever, okay? I just want to point that out to give a good side of that. So I email her, and it's like, okay, it's Tuesday, I'm on deadline, she's probably not going to get back to me. Unlike with the other one, my gamble was that I don't think anyone's going to get this story. With the Spike one, I kept hoping they would. After the Spike one, where it took so long, I'm going like, I don't think anyone's going to get it. So I'm going to wait till the next Tuesday, and I'm going to do the story the next Tuesday. She'll have time. She can do what she can do, alert people, whatever. And I will report it the next Tuesday with comments, figuring I'm going to get comments from her. Mm-hmm. So I don't hear from her at all. So, which surprised me. I figured I would get comments, and I have the story, and she could say what she needs to say. So I don't hear from her at all. And then they know I'm doing the story the next week, obviously. So I start getting attacked by their different people. Dave Meltzer has no credibility, blah, blah, blah. Wow, you're going to play this game. So it's like, okay, you're going to play this game. That's fine. I'm making it up. He's a liar. He's going to make, he makes up stories about us. That's what the game you want to play. Okay. So either way, even if they said anything, the next Tuesday I'm writing the story. So the timing to tell you the part. So I had booked for guests for our show, Mike Tenay and Kurt Angle for that week. And Kurt and I had, Kurt was going to do it on the Foxcatcher thing on Dave Schultz, his mentor. And, it was literally months he'd agreed to do it. And Kurt just kept putting off watching the movie because if you're Kurt Angle, he knew he had to see the movie.
It's a tough one to watch.
I remember, when Mike Tenay went in there, on the show where he did the interview with Kurt on the movie, and he just goes, what's it like going to a movie when it's a movie about your best friend and at the end of the movie he dies, and it's like, so Kurt was like avoiding it because he knew it was going to be a bad deal for him. So he finally watched it, he's ready to do the show. And Mike, I don't think Mike has ever done a show for our website, and I finally convinced him, just do one show. Mike's probably one of the most knowledgeable people in wrestling in the world. And, whatever he was, he agreed. So this happened. So I go, it's going to be bad, and I think I owe it. So, I mean, I emailed Dixie, I emailed Kurt, I emailed Mike. Dixie first, then probably Mike, and then Kurt, but all right after the other, one after the other. And go, look, this is the situation. You're getting canceled. It's going to come out in a week. And for your goodness of your career, decide, I would suggest you don't do the show. But if you want to do it, I'll do it with you. I'm not going to cancel you. It's your call. And they both said, yeah, this probably isn't the week to do the show. Yeah. And so they didn't do the show. And, and Mike never agreed to do the show again. And now he doesn't want to do podcasts. And, Kurt, whatever, the time came and went. And, and then he went to WWE. so it's too bad because they would have been two phenomenal shows. And so anyway, that was the story.
And if anybody listening wants to write the death of TNA, they have like the last 5 chapters, right? Just listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be really unhappy about some of this, but that's exactly the chronology of how everything went down.
And TNA's not dead. I was just joking.
No, actually they're more entertaining than they've been, but God, the rating that they had this week was very scary. But it's a 1 week thing. I always say that, like, don't freak out over 1 week rating, but if this becomes a pattern, it's really too bad because they've some of the stuff they got. Freaking LAX is tearing it up. They had LAX and Chris Brooks and Jonathan Gresham in New York the other night. I heard people were just saying it's like the best tag match they've seen live in a long, long time. So those guys are doing great, and the last pay-per-view was very strong. And what was it? There's Thursday show, this coming Thursday show. There's a street fight where they actually do a street fight, with it was LAX and Homicide and Hernandez. And I heard that visually, it's not in the ring. It's like they do a street fight in the street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I heard. I heard when it was filmed that it was phenomenal, and then somebody had told me who actually just saw the finished product of how it going to look on TV on Thursday, and said you just got to see it. So I guess another thing to look forward to this week besides the G1 Finals, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, NXT Takeover that's going to be probably the best takeover show ever, and SummerSlam was going to be 6 long hours and hopefully some good matches, but a lot of big stuff.
All right, tell us about this Impact angle where the kid got ran over by the car.
Yeah, kid got. So it's like watching Fast and the Furious, and they just won their gang war, and they're all celebrating in the scene where you celebrate at the end of the movie, and they're all celebrating, and there's a kid there, and they give the kid the championship belts, and they're crossing the street, and Hernandez and Homicide are in a car, and they're driving down the car, and all of a sudden they run the kid over, and it was, and that's what they ended, and they come back, and
there's just more of the show.
Well, they acknowledge it, they just go like, oh my God, what did we see? But now the show's going to go on, and then then we had whatever it was, and then we had the rest of the show. It was weird because it's like, if like people were watching in any great numbers, that would have been like really controversial and probably like negative as hell response to it. But I think that they're just looking for something to get people to talk, and they did to a degree, but not to that big a degree, really. I didn't really hear many people. People talked about it to a degree, but not like, I think that they were, looking at like this big stunt that everybody would talk about and get some talk on their product, whether good or bad, just talk, which in a sense they need. So, it's, but yeah, I don't know. A part of me just was like, that's kind of silly because we had no emotional.
Well, it's they're all sitting around, they're all in lawn chairs, and they're having their little party, and like there's one kid there. Yeah. And the car starts zooming towards them, and like all of the adults leap out of the way, and they just leave the kid standing there in the middle, and the car zooms by, And then everyone just they put their hands on their heads, which doesn't seem like a very realistic reaction. And then we get a shot from the kid's point of view, looking up at everybody, looking down at the kid.
Yeah. The thing is, we have no emotional attachment to the kid. So it's just like this anonymous guy is run over. So it's like if he was established in the storyline, it would be one thing. But it's just like you introduce this kid in a background scene for, a few seconds or, a minute or whatever it is, 30 seconds, minute. And then he's run over before we even know who he is. So it's kind of like there's no real attachment to it anyway, or to him. So, yeah, it was different, I don't know. Their numbers haven't been good. There's no way around it. And it's going to, in theory, it's going to be a bad fall because they're going against the NFL, and that's just never fun for a wrestling show, let alone Impact, which, again, to most people, Impact's just not the A's show. It's like Impact's not something that people live and die to watch, though I think that there are people who will watch it, to a degree, just because it's on, and it's been better. Like this week's taping was one of the ones where they really did have a small crowd, and it did have that feel of like it doesn't look as bad as it probably looked in the building if you were there, but it also, sometimes like you can kind of camouflage a small crowd, and like if you hear like there's 400 people, like Full Sail, it's a perfect example. There's 400 people at Full Sail, and that place is tiny. But when you watch it on TV, it looks okay. Remember the one where we went to with
Yeah, I was there live, and I couldn't believe. It's like there was nobody there, but we watched it on TV, and it was like, man, they did a hell of a job with this.
Yeah, the one where we saw when we did the NXT taping we saw in Dallas.
Yeah.
And it's like there were probably 200 people there, but on TV it looked fine. And this one was more than 200 people, but it's in a 1,000-seat building, or so it was looking pretty empty. So and you never want it to look empty because then you had the whole feel that like you're not hot, and it's just not a good look for it. But when you're getting people to pay for tickets again and you're running the same city over and over again, that's the one thing with the wrestling now. It's like, there's a lot of people willing to pay for wrestling, but not like 3 straight nights or 2 straight nights in the same building, especially when the nights are like one of the nights is a Monday. That's tough.
Next big story, which I'm going to get into after the break, I want to direct everybody to my Twitter at Brian Alvarez. Head up there to the very top, and I have retweeted the Impact Wrestling press conference brawl between Austin Aries and John Morrison. Now, when you hear that, you think, oh, angle here right before the big show tonight. Watch it during the break, and we'll talk about it when I come back. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Brian Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. And before we get an Impact here, I just want to mention a bunch of texts here. What's going on with Will Ospreay? I don't know. He was wrestling last night at OTT, and he got hurt. And I don't know what happened. There were people there that thought that he hurt his neck. There were people there that thought he hurt his rib. And one way or the other, the paramedics got him backstage. I guess there was an ambulance outside, and I don't have any other update. I guess he missed a Pele kick early and landed on his neck. Ooh. And shortly thereafter, they went to the finish. And whether it was his neck, rib, I don't know. But if we get an update, we'll let you know ASAP. But that does not sound good.
It could be his neck and his rib in a case like that. Just, oh, God, yeah. This is where you hope there's nothing broken, 2, no nerve damage, because I can imagine what that must look like.
All right, so this deal here, tonight's Bound for Glory show, the main event. It is Austin Aries versus Johnny Impact World Title. So, if you haven't been following the story, and keep in mind, this is professional wrestling here, and this is the main event of their WrestleMania. So, you can't not be skeptical of everything, okay? But about a week ago, Johnny Impact tweeted something about Austin Aries being short. And Austin Aries he tweeted him back, and he had a rather controversial tweet. And in the middle of the tweet, he called Johnny Impact's real-life wife, Taya Valkyrie, husky. And long story short, tons of blowback online, and Impact and Aries went back and forth, and eventually the tweets were deleted. So then Aries was on our show, and he talked about how upset he was about being called short. Compared it to a lot of different things. And again, it's professional wrestling. What's real, what's fake? So then on TMZ, and now we're talking about pro wrestling and TMZ, Johnny Mundo and Taya were on that show, and they talked about this Austin Aries situation. And that led to the Abyss Hall of Fame ceremony, where at the end of the Hall of Fame ceremony, Austin Aries basically was out there, and I guess they wanted him to issue an apology. And so, if you didn't watch the video, and once again, it's up at Brian Alvarez, Aries begins to apologize, and then notes that here he is having to apologize, and meanwhile, Johnny Impact and Taya are going on TMZ and talking about this situation, and he gets angry, and Johnny Impact jumps up, and he's angry, and then they get into this huge pull-apart, which you see all of the time in pro wrestling, but there is so much profanity being thrown back and forth.
A lot.
And one thing that everyone needs to... Here's what everyone needs to look at in this video, okay? This is not a deal where they're in the ring or they're backstage in an event and there's a bunch of fake reporters or whatever, and there's other wrestlers around and this and that. The people who are in the crowd, if you look at the video, the people in the crowd are the folks that are in charge of Anthem. There are some of Impact Wrestling's corporate sponsors there. Not people involved in wrestling, corporate sponsors. And this thing gets wild, and in the middle of it, one of their corporate sponsors gets knocked down. And all I will say is it's professional wrestling. And obviously, companies always do sorts of things to make you interested in matches that are going to be taking place, particularly on their biggest show of the year. But this, how can I say this without sounding like a complete whatever? This is not a work from start to finish. I don't know how much of this is a shoot. I don't know if some of it, I don't know if all of it, I don't know if it started as a work and then turned into a shoot. I don't know if it started out as a shoot and turned into a work. All I know is that there are portions of this rivalry that are absolutely real, and it's going to be interesting to watch the show tonight, suffice to say, and the main event, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next week. So if something happens over the course of the next week, then you heard us talking about it here first. I'll just put it that way.
Most pull-aparts are trash, and whether real or fake, you know, when they break out a lot of times for real, you're just kind of depressed for everybody involved because it kind of makes a spectacle out of things. I mean, very rarely does it really, to me at least, really influence how much I want to see a fight. And most of the times when they're put on, whether in wrestling or boxing or anywhere else, they're terrible. This was a good one. This was one of the good ones, and it comes at a time where we are coming off of real emotion with Khabib and Conor. We're coming off of real emotion from the fight that took place last night between Terrence Crawford and Jose Benavidez, where at their weigh-in on Friday for the fight coming up on ESPN, Crawford threw a punch at him. Looked to be a very real punch, not one of those kind of pull-apart punches, a real punch that Benavidez ended up ducking, and they were able to split those guys apart. So coming off the heels of that, it could have come across as, however whether it was real or fake, this could have come across bad, but frankly, it came across as really good and actually in line. And we actually got a trifecta of real emotion in all three canvas-matted sports. I don't know if any K1 events have been taking place or anything like that, but it really was impressive. And with all the cursing, with somebody getting knocked down, with the fact that it was again, it felt a little bit different. Whether it was a work or whether, if it was a work, who cares? They did a good job with it.
Well, I care because this person says, you want to say it's a shoot, so just say it. I don't want to say that because I don't know. But what I think is that the tweet where Aries called Taya husky, I think that really pissed off Morrison. And I think that whole situation...
Aries gets pissed off being called short. That's
well,
real.
we know that. So I think both guys legitimately pissed each other off. But hey, things happen. They deleted the tweets. I think that there was some underlying resentment there, and I do think that there probably was supposed to be a pull apart when Aries was out there to do his apology. I don't think that a real fight broke out in the middle of apology. I think that it was scheduled to be like, Aries is going to do his apology, he's going to say something that's going to make Johnny mad, Johnny's going to jump up, they'll be pulled apart. I think that's what the plan was, but I do think that it got very out of control. And I do believe that there are going to be some consequences. That's what I think. But we'll find out over the course of the next week.
And if you want to find out about those consequences, just remember you're going to have to stay up a little bit later because, at least in the States, I don't know where it airs in Canada, but on Pop, Impact's going to be moving till 10 o'clock on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights.
This person here says, Brian, don't get worked, brother. Hey, I'm telling you what I think happened. Like, there are people that believe that everything in professional wrestling is a work. There are people that believe that everything in wrestling... I shouldn't say that.
Well, look,
there's nobody that thinks everything is a shoot.
Works have become shoots, and shoots have become works. I mean, so it's where sometimes the story ends or begins, it gets a little bit, it's a little hazy.
This person here says that big bodyguard had one job. When did Penn Jillette become a TNA bodyguard? That's Abyss!
That's Abyss! That's a Hall of Famer you're talking about there.
I mean, it wasn't Abyss. It was his brother, Joe Park, who was there for Abyss's Hall of Fame deal.
Yes.
It's this Bound for Glory show. TNA's biggest show of the year. An exciting night of action, if I do say so myself.
We certainly have a lot to talk about.
In a lot of different ways.
There's no doubt about that.
A very exciting night of action. There was high-flying wrestling.
All kinds of that.
There was... great action inside and outside the ring.
No doubt.
Someone got chopped up with an axe.
Yeah.
They had what was... I don't even know what it was in the main event, but I could talk for hours about it. So let's not waste any time here. Impact Bound for Glory 2018.
Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory. Although Bound for Glory actually kind of fits for part of it, too. October 14th, 2018. Had an opening video with two guys who I eventually figured out was LAX.
Yes.
Talking about New York.
You are correct.
Yeah. Opener was Rich Swann and Willie Mack versus Ethan Page and Matt Sydal. So Matt Sydal is basically Raven now. He is a cult leader who wants everyone to see with their third eye. So the first takeaway from this match is they were in the Melrose Ballroom. It is tiny. A small little building. I wrote several dozen fans in attendance. I actually looked it up. Capacity for this room is 1,250, but that's without a wrestling ring in the middle of it. So there was maybe 1,000 people in this room, and it felt like a lot less than that.
Well, that's what's funny because Impact has always been really good about taking buildings where there aren't a lot of people and making it look like there are a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And tonight they took a building where there weren't that many people, but they made it look like there were way less.
Yeah.
It looked like there were like 200 people in that building. And I know there were way more than 200 people in the building.
Yeah.
They might want to work on that part of the... Production was good other than that.
It was mic'd good. There was all lit well. A lot of missed camera spots.
There was a lot of color.
There was all sorts of color.
It was in high def. I mean, what more can you ask for here?
So they had a fun match in this tiny little ring. Actually, the whole setup, it looked like a wrestling skit on a game show more than an actual wrestling show. It
wasn't just a tiny little ring, but because the building was the size that it was, they had to like pack everybody in.
Yeah.
And so the guardrail's like a foot from the ring apron, which was very much like in Vegas when we did that show in Vegas.
Sure.
Yeah, because that was the first thing that I thought when I went out there, because they wanted to do a dive in the Peach Machine match. And I went out there and I looked at how much room there was, and it was like, there was so little room that I thought, I don't even know if I could do a cross body. Like, if I try cross body, my neck will hit the barricade, my knees will hit the apron, and I'll die.
Right.
So I just kind of jumped straight.
Yeah.
These fucking guys on this show, they didn't think about any of that. No. They were like, we're going to do every dive that we can think of. Like, our bodies be damned. And their bodies were damned many times on this show.
These damned bodies. Yeah, no one put a lot of thought into a lot of things they did in this show. So the best part of this match was Willie Mack, who was
the best part of every match he's in.
The Mack from Lucha Underground. He's awesome. Made a great comeback. Crowd chanting, "This is Impact," which made me want to bomb the place.
Vinny, it is a new era of wrestling fans. It's a bunch of young, friendly millennials that want to go there and have a good time. The ECW arena was 20 to 25 years ago.
Right.
Those people are all old men now. Their children are all nice. And they came here to this show. They just want to have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't get mad at these chants. This is what you're going to get. They really mean it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I see.
They're not being ironic. They actually mean it.
So there was all sorts of cool moves, and Swan had a 450 for the win.
I thought this match was great.
It was a fun opener.
It had all sorts of cool moves. If you like moves...
If you like moves, this is the show for you.
This was the show for you.
With the exception of the main event, it felt like every single match was one giant 700-move spot.
Well, there were a lot of spots in this show.
There were all sorts of spots. Willie Mack tried to cut a promo, but none of the microphones worked. And finally, he was able to get one that worked. Ironically, his promo was about making noise.
Yeah.
Whoever makes the most noise gets the 2 empty seats in the front row. They never acknowledged the winner of this, by the way.
No, they did.
Did they?
Well, I mean, he chose 2 people, but like we didn't get their names or... Yeah.
I thought there'd be like a big presentation.
No. They just got the damn seats.
No, they moved them down
and they missed the opener.
I see.
So, you know. But hey, they got moved up.
We had Johnny Impact on TMZ saying Austin Aries had said mean things about his wife.
All right, so for those of you that don't know the story, if you didn't listen to Observer Live today, I'll try and do the Cliff Notes version. You can listen to the other show if you want the long version. So, Johnny Impact made some comment on Twitter about Austin Aries being short.
Right.
Austin Aries really does not like being called short.
Apparently.
So his response was to go on Twitter and say that Johnny Impact had a husky wife. Okay. Johnny Impact did not like this.
You don't say.
And they went back and forth, and the tweets ended up being pulled. Okay? So the impression that I was given was that both Aries and Morrison, I guess all 3 of them, this was a work that turned into a shoot.
Sure.
They were all upset about what was said. So they pulled all of the tweets down. So then they had this thing on TMZ, and later in the show, they showed the press conference brawl. Okay? Now, the unedited brawl is up on Twitter. It was filmed by somebody that was there. They put it up. There is so much profanity in this. It comes across... It's way more intense than any other goofy brawl that you'll ever see. Now, I don't know really what happened here. It's professional wrestling, and so you must be skeptical of everything, okay? But all I know is that they had corporate sponsors there, and they had people from Anthem there at that press conference. And it got out of hand, and one of the corporate sponsors got ran over and was very, very upset. And the Anthem people were very, very upset. I don't know what that means.
All right.
I think what happened was they had the whole press conference brawl planned, but it got a little bit out of control, and it also didn't turn into a shoot like they got into a real fight, but it worked its way into a shoot again. And I think that everyone sort of saw a little of that, which is why they did what they did in the main event. Or Austin Aries has quit, or he's going to be fired tomorrow. I guess we'll find out the next day or so.
Yeah, or a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, I mean, if he's at the tapings, if he's still working for them next week, like clearly this was all probably like a work that turned into a shoot, that turned back into a work again, and now it's a work.
It would not be the first time that's happened.
If he's fired, if he's done, then that tells you that it was a work that turned into a shoot, and then he did his last match and was pissed off and walked out on the company.
Right.
Or did something unprofessional to it's like, you can't fire me, I quit. Right. Something like that.
Yeah.
We'll find out in the next couple of days. But that's That's the story of everything here. The Cliff Notes version.
So what we saw on this show was clips of Johnny on TMZ and Taya on TMZ talking with the host, and then the host saying, "We know it's entertainment, but you got to wonder if these dudes stuck to the script."
They should have taken that out.
You should not have put that on the TNA pay-per-view, the Impact Wrestling pay-per-view.
Hey, the other thing that I just want to mention real quick is, I'm sure everyone's going to listen to this and they're going to say, Bryan, everything in wrestling is a work. And they're going to say, how could you even possibly believe that, like, this was real at all? And the only thing that I will say is, why in the world would Impact go to so much trouble to do a shoot-style storyline on a show where Allie goes to the world of the undead and kills a girl with a fucking axe? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Why fucking waste your time? I guess it got people talking. But you know what else is going to get people talking? The review we do of Allie with an axe in the underworld.
So Abyss went into the Hall of Fame, which they covered by showing Aries and Johnny having a pull apart.
Yeah.
At the press conference.
Very disrespectful to my main man, Abyss. He deserved better.
Konnan gets laid out backstage.
Yes.
LAX goes to check on him. He says, "It was King. I'll be okay. Get the company, man," he says. "You go handle business."
It was King.
And I was left thinking, who the fuck is King?
Eddie Kingston.
As I later learned, it's Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston is King.
I don't know if it meant Jerry Lawler.
That would have been cool. I don't think it'd be Harley.
It would have been cool.
I could believe Jerry Lawler.
It would have been cool.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler, I could see doing that.
Eli Drake comes out for an open challenge. I guess he had promised or teased a main event star, a top guy. There's chance of Y2J as if. He calls out some of the Giants players who were there. They were never shown or identified on camera, at least not here.
Well, the reason I think they chanted Y2J is Jericho has at least expressed interest in maybe doing something for Impact.
Sure.
Which is a big change from, I will never work anywhere except WWE.
That is a big change.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that got people thinking maybe that's who would be on their biggest show of the year.
Yeah. So instead it was James Ellsworth. It was not Chris Jericho.
This was the funniest fucking thing ever.
It was a very Impact Wrestling thing to do.
It was a very Roman Reigns thing that happened. They thought that Eli Drake was, well, I mean, Eli Drake is the heel.
Yeah.
They thought James Ellsworth was going to be like a huge babyface surprise.
Sure.
We got this guy from WWE. He was a likable guy
He's
there.
been on SmackDown.
Sure. People seem to like the fella. This will be great. He's fucking hated. Yeah. Absolutely hated by these people. They did not want Ellsworth.
Oh, they wanted Chris Jericho.
Yes.
So they go back and forth on the mic. There's chin jokes.
Who is a New Yorker, by the way?
Ball jokes, excuse me?
Jericho.
Jericho is a New Yorker. That is true. Maybe that's why it threw him off. So there's chin jokes, there's ball jokes, and eventually the match starts, and Eli wins with 2 gravy trains. This sucked, I wrote.
Cheered the entire time.
Yeah.
Everything that Ellsworth did was booed. He tried every trick in the book to get cheered. He tried to lead the fans in chants they were already chanting. Talked about how much they loved New York. They responded by saying, "Fuck you, Ellsworth."
Yeah.
Then he was beaten.
So Eli cut another promo about wanting Hall of Fame material. Out came Abyss. They had a brawl. Went on for a long time. You thought it was a match going on. It went so long.
I did. I was like, what's going on here? Why is the ref just sitting
Why is the
out
ref
there?
outside the ring, you asked?
Yeah. I actually thought that like there was a table in the ring, so there was no room for him because the ring was so small.
Right.
He just got out of there.
I'm surprised they had tables under the ring. That they fit. And finally, Abyss chokes them into a table, and that's it.
Yeah, that was it.
So maybe they'll feud now, or maybe not. I don't know.
I think it was just a happy day for Abyss, celebrating his entry into the Hall of Fame.
Tessa Blanchard's doing this promo on the street, how she's going to retain the Knockouts title and prove she's the best and all this. And
she's walking around New York with the championship belt on her shoulder.
Right. I've been to New York. She probably was not the only one. So then, Taya Valkyrie is upset about Tessa's bad attitude, her entitlement and her lack of gratitude and lack of respect for everyone else. Now, I don't watch Impact. I haven't watched an Impact show probably since last year's Bound for Glory. So I don't know. Maybe she's been a babyface thing on the show.
Didn't you watch Slammiversary?
I don't think so. What was on that?
It was a show that we just watched. It was really good. It had Moose and Austin Aries.
I think I was out that week. But regardless, the point is, maybe Taya Valkyrie on Impact has been a big babyface and a big hero. I only know her from Lucha Underground and a little bit of AAA where everyone hates her and she's just evil.
Well, she's in a different company now, Vinny.
I guess so.
Yes.
So Taya comes out. She's got this big, giant, long robe on, walking down this very narrow ramp, and the fans are grabbing at her and trying to trip her. They're trying to do rope spots in this tiny little ring. For them, it was impossible. For some of the better wrestlers, they were able to pull it off, but it's hard to run the ropes and do like crisscrosses and stuff when you're running a step and a half and hitting the ropes already. Let's see. They did 700,000 spots. There's a very scary moonsault by Taya. She had the Road to Valhalla, which is basically the Glam Slam, but the ref was distracted to getting the apron back out of the ring.
I believe they used to call it the bitch clamp.
I was, after many years of this...
I don't think you're going to be hearing that one a lot in 2018.
Well, that too, but they are not the same move.
Oh, really?
They're similar.
What's the difference?
The bitch clamp is a submission hold.
I see. You slam them.
I always recalled that Jazz used it.
Yes.
And she would lift them up by the arms and then slam them down. But apparently,
I see.
That's not what she did.
I see.
And people showed me clips of her doing it as a submission hold. Beth Phoenix would do the same thing and then drop them on their face, as much as Taya
That's the glam slam.
That's a slam.
I see.
Not a clamp.
I got it.
Yeah, so Tessa kept going for the buzzsaw DDT, which is a hammerlock DDT. Finally hits it. It's not the finish, but then she goes up top, hits a diving codebreaker for the win. I thought this was a good match that would have been better if they did like half as much stuff.
I thought it was a really good match. It was very clumsy there at the beginning. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a long night. They're going to go like 15 minutes and it's going to suck. But they got on the same page, and then it was like one of the better Taya matches I ever saw, which I guess would be a testament to Tessa.
Sure.
Got a great match out of her.
Yeah. Moose did a promo.
Moose now believes he is a king.
He says, this is what the king, in my culture, this is what kings wear. He's in his African-style gear out in the streets of New York again.
Says, I tried to order you, Mackenzie, a queen outfit, but they were on back order. I thought, this is a wise man. Wants Mackenzie to be his queen.
I see, yes.
Yeah. Good choice,
so
dude.
It's supposed to be Moose versus Eddie Edwards. Eddie is almost immediately attacked and choked out by Killer Kross.
Yes.
Which is a name I'm not making up.
This is Kevin Kross. He was the White Rabbit in the White Rabbit tribe. Worked for AAA Global Force.
I think I quit Lucha Underground before the White Rabbit was revealed.
Well, I mean, he played the character.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway,
yeah.
WWE wants him.
Well,
he's a tall guy with a good physique.
And tattoos.
It's 2018, so still in demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
There's nothing wrong with him here. It turned into a tag match. Out comes Tommy Dreamer.
Yes.
Speaking of ECW being 20 years ago.
And it got an ECW chant.
Yeah. Of course it did.
I couldn't even believe it.
I mean, it would anywhere, but they were still in New York.
I was just like, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, did people in the 50s chant for promotions from the 30s?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think they did. I could be wrong. Did Bruno Sammartino come out for commentary and fans chanted WWWF?
I'm going to now. I'll tell you that much.
It's just dumb. It actually
Any show I go to.
It had been WWWF like 3 years earlier. I didn't even count.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. I'm trying to think of like a dead promotion that people would chant for.
Go to Impact.
20 fucking years later.
Go to Impact and chant for TNA.
Yeah.
No, that would be the only one. Usually companies die for a reason. Because everyone hates them. So it's Eddie Edwards and Tommy Dreamer versus Moose and Killer Kross. They're brawling outside. Tommy spits beer in Moose's face. Moose's selling is seriously my favorite thing on the show so far. Just awesome.
Second only to his outfit. That was my favorite thing on the show.
Don Callis said these words in a non-ironic manner. Moose with a significant athletic advantage over Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, well, Tommy when he was young was an athlete, but
no, he wasn't.
Come on.
He was not an athlete when he was young, and he's not young now.
He was all right.
He's a pudgy, middle-aged guy.
Yeah. Moose is more athletic.
Moose is more athletic.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
Unironically.
So he gets into it with the Giants players. The camera misses it. I think he was shoved. And then, it must have been Eddie. Eddie suplexes him on the floor. This is also missed. The director was having a bad night. Did we talk about the hard cam in this tiny little ring in this tiny little building?
No.
The hard cam is like at ring level. It's not up. So if someone, you can't see over anyone. So like in the main event, when the ring announcer, who was bigger than either wrestler, and stepped in front of them to announce, the wrestlers disappeared. That also happened in this match as the guys were doing spots. You'd see someone whip a guy into the ropes away from the hard camera, and then he'd just be gone. Because all you'd see was the back of the guy who had just whipped him in. So, apparently, Impact Wrestling is a PG show because Moose was so angry at his arch rival that at least twice in the show, in this match, he shouted at the top of his lungs, "F you, Eddie."
Yeah, there was a lot of profanity here on the show. And then they
No. He didn't swear.
Oh, F you.
He said F you.
Well, there was a lot of profanity on the show, which was funny because they allowed it on the show, but they bleeped it off the video packages.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird.
Kind of took me out of it when Moose said F you, Eddie. But eventually it turned into the one-on-one fight that was advertised in the first place. And it was really cool because Moose is really good and Eddie's really good. And finally, after all this, Eddie pins Moose with a schoolboy. And then gets the win, and he's immediately attacked by the bad guys and powerbombed onto the apron.
That is exactly what happened, Vinny. Excellent reporting there. I thought this match was good. And I thought the powerbomb looked like it sucked.
Yeah. That's also excellent reporting, Brian.
Thank you.
We are on the same page tonight. Sami Callihan promo.
You know, I love Sami Callihan. Mm-hmm. He's quite a character. He's got his positives and negatives. I can't get over this Ohio thing.
There's two things about Sami Callihan on the show.
There's like...
the Ohio thing.
I mean, I guess I have to respect how determined they are to represent and stand behind Ohio.
Yeah.
But, like, they're going to prove that Ohio is the wrestling capital of the earth.
Yeah.
Ohio.
This is not a region that draws strong emotions from people. Like, if you mention the South... you'll get strong emotions, positive and negative. If you mention California, you'll get strong emotions. New York,
Los Angeles,
yeah. Las Vegas,
Portland,
Chicago,
Seattle.
Yeah. You mention Ohio, and people just kind of shrug.
Yeah, like
they don't. Like Cleveland's there, I guess. That's cool. So yeah, it's Ohio versus everything. The other thing about this is Sami's gimmick is basically that he trolls you and me and people who think like us. His nickname is The Draw, and he mostly talks about buy rates and ratings. That's his character.
Yes.
That's what his character wants to do. Now, his delivery's out of this world fantastic. His promo is great. And he's talking about taking down the machine over and over and over again. I was trying to figure out what the hell that meant.
Hey!
He literally meant the machine.
The actual machine.
An actual, factual, physical, real machine.
Yes.
So good for him. This led to the Lucha Brothers and Brian Cage versus Sami Callihan and OVE. I thought this was tremendous.
It was a very good match. I feel bad because, I mean, we've been getting on the Crists for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
When they first were in Impact. But, I mean, it's been 15 fucking years. And we got this match here, and everybody loves Pentagon. Everybody loves Phoenix. Everybody's into Brian Cage. Everybody is into Sami Callihan. Nobody gives two shits about the other two Crists.
One of them, they say, it's like he's the video game player who spams the super kick button. Like, you think the Young Bucks throw kicks. You have no idea until you watch a Jake Crist match.
Yeah, they watch his matches and go, that's just too many super kicks.
Yes.
It's killing the business.
So, let's see. Phoenix was out of this world in this match. He's great on Lucha Underground. He is so much better as a team with his brother. I don't know why. There's something about teaming with Pentagon that brings more character and personality to Phoenix. But he's just
damn
awesome.
Brother.
Well, I realize that.
They're family.
But he I don't know. Anyway, the team is awesome. And I'm thinking to myself, this is legitimately now one of the best teams I've ever seen. And no sooner should I type that than they had the biggest fuck up of the entire show. And they tried some kind of Tower of Doom cutter spot.
Oh, fucking A. So Phoenix gets on Pentagon's shoulders. He's standing on his shoulders.
Yes.
He's going to do a dive off of his shoulders. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of it, one of the damn Crists decides he's going to come off the top with a cutter.
That's the plan.
Oh, my fucking God. He, missed, and he fell down. Yeah. And then Phoenix fell down on his head.
Yeah.
And Pentagon's buried under the pile here.
Yeah.
They're all just in a heap.
Yeah, that was bad.
What can you do?
That was bad. But they got over it.
And you know what? This nice, millennial-friendly crowd that just wants to have a good time and love the show, they chanted, "You fucked up."
It was the biggest fuck up of the show.
Yeah, I haven't heard a "You fucked up" chant on a wrestling show. I can't even tell you the last time.
It's been years.
It's been a long fucking time. That's how big a fuck up this was.
I also like Don Callis as the fans are clapping for the machine. He points out it's the Terminator clap. He was calling spots for the fans.
Yes.
Yeah. So eventually, Cage is finally isolated in the ring. and they super kick him and he no sells, and they super kick him and he no sells, and they kick him and they kick him and they kick him and they kick him and they kick him, like 50 fucking kicks to the face. Finally, he sells them, and then Sami hits a wedgie pile driver and pins him. I thought this match was awesome.
Well, first off, they hid their all-seeing eye. They hid their finish on him, and he kicked out at 1. And he fired up like Godzilla or King Kong, and all the planes came in and just shot 1,000 bullets in him.
That's exactly
then,
what happened.
Yeah, then they pinned him.
He was Kong, and they were the biplanes.
It was a wild match.
And eventually, Beauty killed the Beast. So that would make Beauty Sami Callihan, and that's not right. Austin Aries promo.
Listen, again, I don't know how much of this is real, how much of this is fake. But this guy cut the fucking best promo. He doesn't say anything for like 10 seconds. Just looks at the camera. Then he cuts this promo about all that he's done. Took this place off life support. This Johnny Impact just coming on in out of nowhere off Survivor. Wanting this title he didn't give a shit about before. And he's got a chip on his shoulder. And he wants Morrison to bring his wife so he can expose Johnny for what he really is right in front of her here tonight. This promo was awesome. I thought this was one of the better promos of the year.
This is awfully great. Yeah. We have the LAX versus the OGs, which is the original LAX, Hernandez and Homicide.
And every now and then you have a stipulation match. Like in WWE, there's some blood feud. And thankfully it's time for Hell in a Cell. You throw their ass in the cell. They're not allowed to bleed or anything like that. They're allowed to breathe. They can't bleed. Or you get whatever stupid stipulation match it is. Well, these guys have had a feud that involved Little Richie getting run over by a car.
A child was run over by a vehicle and killed.
Yes.
Dead.
Well, I think he's dead.
They sure talked like he's gone.
I mean, he may be gone. I didn't do enough of a follow-up on Little Richie.
I didn't do an autopsy, but
anyway,
I'm assuming he's dead.
So they're going to have a concrete jungle match.
Concrete jungle death match.
Yeah, so I thought,
boy, howdy was
all
it.
right, so a fucking goofy street fight that we see all the time. You know, great. So they come back, and the padding has been removed from the ring.
Yes.
It is merely ropes, no turnbuckles, mind you.
No turnbuckle pads.
No turnbuckle pads, just the metal. No canvas and no padding, just boards. Boards, ropes, and metal. So the first team comes out. It's Eddie Kingston's crew, the OGs, and he gets in the ring, and he starts jumping up and down, and a fucking board pops up.
Of course it did.
Now there's a goddamn hole in the ring.
Yeah.
So they bring out LAX and the Bodega Bams to play their song, and there's like 50 Bodega Bams in the ring, or whatever the name of the band is.
So many guys in the ring jumping up and down, knocking on the boards hither and yon.
The guy is Bodega Bams. He's got a band. But anyway, they're jumping up and down, all these guys.
Boys.
And these fucking boards are flying all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. You know how scary it is to be in a ring where the boards pop up, but you've still got the canvas and the padding? They don't have the canvas or the padding.
Yeah.
I've worked in some shitty fucking rings before. This was the shittiest ring I've ever seen anyone work in.
Yes.
So they do a match.
Even before it started, they're having a stare down, a 6-way stare down on these boards that are all out of place and cattywampus, and I'm thinking, I would be afraid to walk in this ring, let alone bump in it.
So they have a match, and
they just do a wrestling thing.
There's a barricade way too close to the ring made of metal.
Yeah.
There's a ring apron made of metal because they got rid of all the padding. There are ropes, metal, and just like Hernandez is immediately cut open from something. Who even knows what? They're doing all these spots and like they're teasing that they're going to do a bump on the wood, but they don't. They tease it, they don't. They tease it, they don't. I'm like, okay, they're not that dumb.
Yeah.
Eventually, they start doing every fucking move in the world on these boards. This poor referee, who I'm sure is part of the ring crew, this poor fucking guy is like trying to put the boards back. That's literally his job. He's not even counting pins.
No.
He's out there trying to fix the fucking board so nobody Rumpelstiltskins themselves and drops a foot in and gets slit in half down the middle.
That is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
One of them just gave up. Let's just yank this board out of the ring and throw it in the ramp.
This was the craziest fucking thing you ever saw.
This was legit the most dangerous match I've seen since Mick Foley and Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. And actually, that match wasn't dangerous. They just did a really stupid thing. This was the most dangerous match.
There was nothing...
Not involving light tubes there were no light tubes. There were no thumbtacks. No. The danger was the ring was falling apart.
I would rather do thumbtacks than work in this ring. Without hesitation.
Yeah.
Light tubes are pretty scary. I don't know about that one, but this ring is no bueno. And they just start doing move after move after move. And here's the other thing, everyone. Sometimes boards pop up. Sometimes boards just flat out break. And now, if they had that happened, and they're doing superplexes on this shit, now you're bumping not even on a metal surface. You're bumping on a metal frame with big giant. I don't know how big their gaps are, like a foot or more. Someone could have been hurt really, really, really badly.
I expected someone to be killed.
Literally dead. Dead is not the option. They joined Richie in the afterworld.
I expected someone to tear their groin, have their leg get chopped off.
Fucking just
get their neck caught between the boards.
Forget about bumping. I imagine someone trying to run on the wood slips out from under them, they fall through the hole into the ring.
Or I expected someone to go running for a dive, but because of the way that the boards are facing, like the boards would slip when he went to dive.
Basically.
And so like he would come up short, which I think happened one time.
Or go and plow face first in the ropes.
Or think about this. If you're a wrestler, there's a lot of things in wrestling that you don't think about. And you're here in a dangerous ring. I mean, a guy could have taken a bump on a board that was up and hurt his back.
Yeah.
A guy could have ran into the buckle really hard, forgetting that the buckles are gone.
Mm-hmm.
But no one died. That's the most astonishing thing about this match.
It actually was. So they all just beat the absolute holy hell out of themselves just because you can't... When I saw this thing, I thought, okay, they're going to choke and brawl and stomp for 10 minutes and do something crazy. And then, no. They just did a wrestling match with no padding, trying to kill themselves. So the big finish is King has one of LAX down. He's about to finish him off when LAX's music hits. Konnan makes his big return, runs wild with nut shots and his blackjack. Did we mention, by the way, that there's no padding or mats on this wood? The finish was a double-team blockbuster off the top rope. This was completely insane. I didn't give it a star rating because I have no idea what to say other than holy fucking shit.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, though.
It certainly was not
boring. It's one of those matches where it's scary when it's happening, but when it's over and you realize nobody died, it's like, that was a pretty intense little battle they had right there.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah.
It sure was.
Well, it's time to talk about Allie in the Undead Realm.
You're making it sound like a children's book.
Dude, this was a children's book. Are you kidding me? It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life, I think. Or at least it's way up there. And I gotta say that I can't even figure out if I hate it or not.
I don't either.
It's like, I mean, I'd never do it.
No.
If this were my company, I'd never do this. Jim Cornette better never see it.
I was thinking that exactly, what would I pay to watch this with Jim Cornette in the room?
I mean, quite frankly, it's ridiculous to do this on the same show that they do the shoot stuff with Aries and
yeah.
Johnny Impact.
That's a big part of the problem.
But, like, it was so unrepentant what they did.
They did not half-ass it.
They went all in. They didn't give a fuck what you thought. They decided, let's go as far as we can, and then we'll be even more ridiculous. We'll involve lightning bolts. And, like, what the fuck can you even say about it?
I guess all we can do is describe what happened.
All right.
Because I'm going to assume we have more listeners than they have viewers. So most of our listeners probably did not see this.
Unfortunately for them.
I guess. So this is the story of Allie the Vampire Slayer. She was dressed like Buffy. She had an axe instead of a stake. But that's clearly what we were going for here. So...
when the fuck did Buffy the Vampire Slayer even air?
A long time ago.
Jesus Christ.
Pretty sure we were in high school when it started.
Right.
Not long after that.
Let's see. Buffy first aired in March of 1997.
Yeah, the movie came out first, and the TV show was later.
Okay. People born that year can drink now.
Yeah.
Okay. Ended May 20, 2003.
Mm.
Fuck.
This is what they went with. So okay. Su Yung is the undead princess, undead zombie queen, whatever the hell her...
She's the undead bad guy.
Undead bad guy. She has kidnapped Kiera Hogan.
Yes.
And taken her to the Undead Realm.
The Undead Realm.
Mm-hmm. So Allie wants to rescue her friend Kiera.
You know what's funny about this was...
a lot.
Before this started, they explained that tonight, Allie needs to go to the Undead Realm.
They just said this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, so like it's a wrestling match, but they're calling it like the Undead Realm match. So maybe there'll be coffins surrounding the ring or some shit. And then this starts airing, and I didn't even take any notes for like 2 minutes because I thought it was a video package.
Yeah.
And then it was like, This is the segment.
This is not the teaser.
No.
This is the product.
This is it. This is her visiting the Undead Realm.
Yes. All right. So she meets up with the Sinister Minister because, of course, she does. And he explains that he can get her into the Undead Realm. But he warns her, if you see your soul, you can look, but do not touch, because your soul will stay here. So she climbs into a coffin and closes the lid, and when she opens it, she's now in the Undead Realm.
So she teleported via coffin.
Or some sort of interdimensional transit.
All right.
The minister...
Keep in mind, by the way, she needs to go to the Undead Realm. Mm-hmm. So, like, if I had to go to the Undead Realm, I'm dressing like Roman Reigns. Flak jacket,
yes.
Long pants. She's in fucking super tight jeans.
Yes.
A very, very tight white, like, tank top type deal.
And a black leather jacket.
And a black leather jacket.
Like Buffy.
Oh, Jesus, fuck.
So...
I mean, the big problem I had with it was all the blood. None of it got on her tank top. How?
That made it unrealistic to you.
That's what killed the credibility of this segment. There's blood.
No, hold on.
There's fucking...
Wait. Don't say a word. The credibility of the segment, you say.
You heard me.
That's what you're worried about.
You heard me. If you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do something like this, okay, and blood spurting everywhere, it's gotta get on your clothes.
Otherwise, it would just be silly.
Yes, actually.
So, the minister tells Allie that Kira is being held upstairs. So, Allie pulls out her axe and starts to stalk through this haunted house.
She brought a fucking axe. It's ridiculous.
What would you have brought?
A gun?
To shoot a ghost?
Well, if a fucking gun's not gonna work, what the fuck's an axe gonna do?
I guess that's true. Holy water may have been a better answer.
There you go. What are those Ghostbusters guns?
A proton pack.
A proton pack.
Yes.
I could have brought a protein pack from PCC. That might have helped. Better than an axe.
So, she fights Su Yung with her axe.
Excuse me, she fought Su Yung with her axe.
I said fight, right?
Yeah, she chopped the shit out of her is what she did. She cut her up with her axe. Blood spurted out and hit the camera.
Hit the side of her neck, but not her shirt.
Yeah.
But I guess there's multiple Su Youngs because she kept fighting her and hitting her with her axe.
Well, no. There's one Su Yung, but she's a bunch of undead bridesmaids.
I see.
Those were the other women.
I see. Okay, that makes sense then.
But they're undead, so why the fuck is she trying to kill them? What good's that going to do?
Make them dead.
They're undead.
Well, zombies are undead, but you can still kill a zombie. Tony's over here nodding.
I was going to say, where's the Tony cam right now?
Yeah.
Just nods in a stern manner.
So they fight in the chapel. They fight in the kitchen. There's fresh fruit in the kitchen. Don't know why that made me laugh.
Because Vinny, it wasn't fresh fruit, you idiot. It was like those wax fruits.
I see.
Yes.
Why? Okay, fine.
It's a fake kitchen.
There's
fake fruit.
Everything else was decayed and rotten, and there's mold in the bottles and stuff, and there's just a big shiny red apple.
Yeah, it's undead fruit.
All right. So they eventually stick a knife, I think, in Su Young's neck, or the axe, I'm not sure. And they find Kira, get her out of the coffin, and they go back.
She was in a coffin.
The bad coffin is upstairs. They go to the escape coffin, which is downstairs, but now they can't get it open.
No.
And Sinister shows up, he cackles, and he says, I'm a man of my word. I said I would get you into the undead realm. I never said I'd get you home.
Fucking guy. Typical.
So now they're stuck here. The escape coffin won't open. There's a bunch of bridesmaids, I guess, closing in to seal their doom.
Oh. It was like Thriller.
Yes. And let's see. There's a strange video effect. The lights go purple and get kind of wavy.
Yeah.
I thought the end of this was going to be someone would change the channel and it'd be a different show on. That's where I thought I was going. No. What happens is Rosemary is also in the what is this called?
She showed up
the
in the
Undead Realm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Rosemary's in the Undead Realm. She pops up, or I should say she rises up, and she takes out all the bridesmaids, and they tell her or she tells them to get out of here. They say, I'm not going without you. And she tells them to leave. She starts fighting Su Yung, and when I say fighting, I mean using laser beams and magic spells.
Dude, it was the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back. He
Yes.
started shooting shit out of his fingers.
Yes, and so finally Allie and Kira, they go into the coffin, they close the lid, and they open the coffin back in the real world.
The dead realm, I guess.
The live realm.
Yes.
The undead realm.
Yes.
Allie wants to go back to try to save Rosemary. And Kira's saying, no, she told us to leave. She said it would be okay. And Allie grabs Kira and now with a demonic possessed voice says, it is not okay.
Oh, man.
Because she touched her soul. So her soul is back in the Undead Realm. The end.
They go back to Don Callis and he goes, what the hell was that? You tell me, Don.
It's your show.
What the hell was that?
Yeah.
What it was memorable.
It certainly was. What it was different.
Oh, it was different.
It was
right?
creative.
Yeah. Then I heard that Impact Homecoming is coming to Nashville January 6th, which means Dave could not go to the Tokyo Dome now. The show will be way too big. They could go back to the Undead Realm.
So Johnny cuts a promo on Austin Aries. It's his fault they were on TMZ in the first place. He says, there's only one thing you can do when you're working with a short, narcissistic asshole. And I sat up, and he said, take his championship. And I said, oh, well, all right. I can't do that then.
Shithead.
So
it's over there anyway. I dare you.
We had photos of Johnny's wedding, including shots of Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, and Zack Ryder.
Yeah. It's a hell of a shindig.
Because you can have Mike Mizanin and whatever Nemeth, and I don't even know his actual real name.
Yeah, these were just photos from the ceremony.
Just his buddies,
yeah.
Former colleagues. So then we had Austin Aries versus Johnny Impact for the world title. So on this show, with dudes fighting on wood and whatever the hell the Undead Realm is, they tried to do a shoot fight.
I did love that Aries comes out with Moose and Killer Kross as his backup. They proceed to do nothing the entire match.
Nope.
They were literally there in case shit got out of hand, I guess.
It may have been.
That was the idea. And then Johnny comes out with Taya. And yes, they had a kerfluffle early. It's my new word, kerfluffle. Mm-hmm. That's all I can describe it as. Neither guy is a shooter.
No.
So what this was a schoolyard fight.
Mm-hmm.
This was not worked MMA.
No.
This was not like if you got, I don't know, Daniel Bryan and Shelton Benjamin in there, they could probably do something semi-realistic. Yeah. These guys are just like, it's so, I don't even know what it is.
I'll just clobber you, and then you just clobber me.
I'll clobber you and not sell.
Yeah.
And I'll grab your neck, and then you get out.
Yeah.
And then I'll hit you again, but I'll trip.
That happened. There's a lot of
like all sorts. It did actually look real until they finally locked up. It looked like two guys that didn't know how to fight, that decided that they were going to start this match by seeing who was a better fighter, and it was clearly a tie. Maybe Aries won. I don't know.
No.
And then
no, it was a tie.
And then they decided to do their fake match.
They had the first 0-0 round in the history of MMA.
I give it to Aries. That guillotine wasn't too bad.
All right.
And then Johnny got out of it, threw a kick, and Aries didn't sell it. That was a good one.
So then eventually a wrestling match broke out. And it was pretty good, but
It had a hell of a match.
Yeah. Yes. They did have a hell of a match. It had the least heat of anything on the show.
The fans didn't know what the hell was going on.
No. Who to cheer for, or what was happening, or what was leading to anything.
Ty is screaming, "Fuck you, bitch!" at Aries, which did not get bleeped.
No.
He stands in front of her and rubs his lean abs, which makes Johnny all pissed off.
So the other story was they kept, obviously, the each had their own big moves, but they also kept trying to hit the other guy's moves, and none of it really worked.
It worked, but the other guy kicked out.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a bad way of putting it, but you're right. So eventually, Aries starts to get more and more annoyed with Taya. He hits these last chancery, and Johnny gets the ropes near Taya, and Aries leers at her. He hits the 450. Aries, not the 450. He hit the brainbuster? Something. He hit something else, and Johnny got the ropes, and Aries leers at Tyra. So then they're doing this spot, and Johnny ducks a move, and Aries ducks a move, and then Aries ducks a move, and then keeps on running and wipes out Taya with a tope. Everyone goes crazy. This asshole. He's finally gotten physical with a man's wife after all the verbal shots they've all been trading. The only time Moose and Killer Kross did anything was as Taya is wiped out with his tope, Moose comes over, points, and laughs at her.
That's terrible.
It was terrible.
What a douche.
Here's the thing. At this point, I expected the story would be Taya's wiped out, Johnny's going to tend to her, make sure she's okay, and thus this will distract him leading to whatever the finish is. No, Johnny barely cared.
He's got a title to win.
Now, I realize she is a wrestler. She's been through this before.
Yes.
But he seemed, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the concern scale, maybe 1/2.
Well, I mean, he should have at least, here's the thing. So if we're pretending that this is kind of real or whatever we're pretending, yeah, she's a wrestler. She's been wiped out with a million topes. Okay, so it should have been that. I mean, it was an accident. Aries didn't deliberately. Yeah, Aries went for something and Morrison moved and he toped out and hit her.
See, I saw it as Aries ducked the move and in his motion said, I should now wipe out your wife.
Well, yeah, that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
But he ducked the move to do it. Anyway, whatever happened. I mean, Morrison should have at least, if he's not going to check on her, he should be absolutely beyond furious and go in there and try and beat the shit out of the guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't really do that. He just went in, hit some moves, and won.
That is exactly what happened.
Yep. He goes in there.
If anything, it threw Aries off his game.
Yes.
Because after he hit the tope, I don't think he got any more offense the rest of the match. And again, it's not like Johnny was seething, bug-eyed, rage-filled guy. He was John Morrison, pro wrestler, doing all his moves.
So he goes in, he fires up, he hits a brain buster, he hits a Starship Pain, he gets the pin, and ref counts 1, ref counts 2, ref counts 3, bell rings, Austin Aries jumps to his feet.
Yes.
He looks up at the barricade, or up at the balcony, starts screaming at Don Callis.
Ah, that's what he's... Okay. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he leaves. And Morrison got up and said, what the hell was that?
Gave Don the finger.
Yep.
Left.
Hugs Taya. And that was the end of the show.
Morrison looked confused.
Yep.
Yes, that was the main event to Bound for Glory.
Well, who knows what happened here? It's 2018.
Yeah. It was not boring.
DTA, everybody. Don't trust anybody.
I guess not.
But it was very interesting. So, like I said, we'll find out what happened next week. I mean, if Aries stays with the company and keeps wrestling, clearly the whole thing was... In the end, a work.
Yeah.
If he's out of here, if he's fired or whatever, then we know that there was more to it and that this was... I don't know. I still wouldn't know what it was if he got fired. I still have no idea what it was. But we'll know in the next couple of days because I got to do TV tapings here pretty soon. So yeah, that is the Bound for Glory show. It was something else.
It was.
Hey, I recommend it. I had a fun time. It was not a boring show.
It was not boring, nor was it infuriating.
No.
As most Impact shows have been over their...
Dude, you should have seen the last one. Slammiversary was great. This is 2 good shows they've had in a row. 2 good pay-per-views in a row. All right, last night was also the Impact Wrestling pay-per-view, Bound for Glory. We talked a lot about it on the show yesterday. The whole
You want to
Austin
talk
Aries,
about Don Leo Jonathan instead?
John Moore. We talked about that yesterday.
I know.
Are you kidding me? Get out of here. So listen, here's the update today, everybody, as well as what I think's going on. All right. So last night they did this match, and the first 5 minutes they played it up or worked it or whatever like it was an old shooting match, except neither of them are shooters. So it was actually like, it really looked like 2 guys that didn't really know how to fight going out there and trying to fight. I got to give them credit for that. It was very realistic, or I don't know, who knows what happened. But anyway, then they start the match, and they work the match just like any other wrestling match, although it was a very, very good match. And then at the end, John Morrison wins after Taya got wiped out by Aries. And he hits a Starship Pain. Aries is pinned. Ref counts 1, 2, 3. And then Austin Aries jumps to his feet. And he gets out of the ring. And he flips off Don Callis up there doing commentary. And he walks to the back. And that was the end of the show. Today, they're at the Melrose Ballroom. They're taping TV today. They're taping TV tomorrow. Austin Aries has gone home. Austin Aries is not going to be on the TV for as long as they tape. So, Austin Aries was not fired to the best of my ability or to the best of my knowledge. So, what this means to me is this is what I believe happened. I could be wrong. I could be an idiot. I believe that what happened was Aries and Morrison got into a tweet battle back and forth, and they actually hurt each other's feelings. Aries doesn't like being called short. Probably wasn't the best thing to call Morrison's wife husky. Tweets all got pulled. Then, I guess, my belief is that after this whole thing went down, they personally apologized to each other and decided to go with it. And then that led us to the press conference And my belief in the press conference is that the whole thing was planned, largely how it went down. But I believe that when they got into their wild fracas, I believe that it got a little bit out of control. I know that a sponsor got knocked down. I know that there was a lot of unhappiness with sponsors and with Anthem over the way that that press conference thing went down. I then believe that everything got smoothed out after that as well. And they decided to go with it for the pay-per-view. And my belief is that it is all an angle and that he has been sent home and that at some point down the road, he's going to do the big invasion comeback deal. And that's where this is all going to go. Now, who knows what's real, what's not? I think it's all an angle right now. But I do believe that there were aspects of this that were a shoot and that they decided to go with it. And quite frankly, if that's what happened, they did a hell of a job with it. It was very interesting last night. Very interesting.
You know what the biggest work of this whole thing is? Anyone believing Anthem's got corporate sponsors.
Oh, get out of here, Mike. Come on.
Hey, look, they got people talking, and I'm not asking this flippantly. I'm serious. Do you know what they had as far as the crowd goes last night? Because I know they said
it wasn't very good, but you can't get a lot of people in there. So I'm sure they sold out, but there were only someone told me that the capacity of the building is 1,100 if there's just 1,100 people standing in the building. But then you have to add a wrestling ring in there, which they added a very small wrestling ring, by the way. So you've got to add the wrestling ring and you've got to add the barricade. And so that's severely cuts down on the number of people that can be in there. I would say, I don't know, 500, somewhere around there.
Well, and one of the reasons I'm interested in that is, number one, to see what they got. Number two, also because you're going to run 2 nights now of TV tapings, and their TV tapings have been, not very dynamic for a variety of reasons here in the past, and they could certainly use some flashy taping. So, I don't know. It's difficult to believe, to know where the line is actually being, muddied, even if there is a muddied line here. But you, in some ways, can't blame them. They are desperate. So almost anything that they do, including the soap opera-ish way they were playing, the LAX storyline and Su Yung and all that sort of stuff, even though that stuff is really over the top, at this point, I don't know, short of killing someone or something like that, and no Khashoggi jokes, I don't know what they're supposed to do. There's only so much money to throw around, and even if you threw down a bunch of money and ran a PWG-styled show, is that really going to help Anthem? So I don't know what the right answer for them is, but at least they got some buzz going off this thing, so you do have to give them a little bit of a heads up for that, because
let me say this
they did
about
a good job.
Let me say this about that, okay? I've seen a lot of wrestling companies that decide we're going to get some buzz, and we're going to design some sort of angle, some sort of shoot-style angle. And a lot of the times, it's really bad. But if what I think happened here is what happened, then something happened, and people's feelings were hurt, and they found a way to take that and run with it in a very effective way.
My God, pro wrestling. They did pro wrestling.
Yeah, you said that they need the attention and that sort of thing, but this doesn't strike me as something where we need some buzz, and so we're going to design something. This seemed more like something happened, and they were like, man, let's do this. And they did it, and they did a great job with it.
Well, yeah, and look, those two, they could have ordered, hey, get Reckless on Twitter, and we'll see. Try to get some buzz going, and maybe it got out of control that way. Well, however it came, they did a good job capitalizing on it.
Knowing Aries, I think that he said something on Twitter that rubbed someone the wrong way. Impact is moving to the Pursuit channel.
It's bad. I don't care what that's another thing. I don't think I've seen people say this is a positive. This is no positive. It is what it's on a station. It's a big drop. They're going to be down 55% as far as homes on a much weaker channel that nobody even knows that they get. Thank God I still get the channel. I never heard of the channel. It's Anthem owns the channel. So what it essentially tells you is that, once the Pop deal ended, I guess Pop canceled them, but they made an agreement with Pop that they would stay on Pop until, for a little while after. Although it's going to end up only being 1 week, January 3rd, because so they're moving to Friday at 10, which is on their own channel on a station that has no hits, that nobody watches, that I can't even find any ratings information out on, other than bullshit statistic. Oh, we're up 30% in households carried or whatever stuff when you read that. And he says, that's telling me nothing. I want to know how many people are watching your shows. I don't want to see bullshit stats. All I saw was bullshit stats, so I know that they're not doing well, because that's what people who aren't doing well do. So they're on a station that essentially nobody watches, that people don't know they have. It does exist. Anthem owns them. It's a hunting station. And they're going to be on in a worse time slot. Instead of Thursday at 10, they're on Friday, a worse night at 10. Not back at 8. We already saw what happened when they moved from Thursday at 8 to Thursday at 10. Now, they're going to be watched by nobody. It's really, their programming. I think that the Fight Network, one of the things that makes them valuable to Anthem is that the Fight Network just lost UFC, and UFC and Impact were their two things carrying the station. So they lost one of them, so they can't lose the other one. So they're going to keep this other one alive, and it's too bad. I would love to have seen them get in a place where they had, they could turn it around, but this is not the place. The idea of Friday at 10, just so everyone understands why, is because it's not for now, but in October, the feeling is that millions of people, which is true, are going to be watching wrestling from 8 to 10 on Fox. So they're going to start right after that show ends. So that's the reason that they chose for this time slot. That's why they chose a bad day and not in pure prime time, because they feel that people, when they're done watching WWE, will switch over because they're already home watching wrestling on Friday nights. I suppose there's something to that, but it's just the fact you'd make that decision seems sad to me also.
I think there would be something to that if it were on USA, but I'm not sure if.
Well, come on, it's no one's going to watch it
them
anyway.
Being on another channel is going to be much of a.
Well, if it was a strong channel, maybe, if it was like a channel people knew about, but on the Pursuit channel, most people aren't going to don't get the channel anyway. 30 million homes, so it's 25%. But it's they go from 67 million to 30 million. It's bigger than BN, smaller than El Rey, smaller than Access. So and it's a worse time slot. Access is Friday. Access will be interesting. What they do come October. They haven't they haven't said anything publicly. I could see them moving. I could see them. Well, they can't move to 10 because 10's when they have the fights, so they can't move that to 10. So I don't know what's going to happen. That's an issue for October. But that is an issue. Is what's Access going to do with New Japan come October? Do they go head to head with WWE? Because that's maybe WWE doesn't even hurt them, but I wouldn't want to do that. Their audience is specialized enough and isn't a WWE audience, but we'll see. We used to think that about Impact, and when Impact would go head to head with WWE, it would get slaughtered. So it's probably not the wise move.